Those tropical storm force winds will
Never wondered what makes TV so powerful in Jamaica?
Throughout the day on
Time
Tuesday,
to find out.
with hurricane
Welcome to
conditions
Global
likely
TV
Tuesday
Group
night
300.
into Wednesday, and then tropical storm conditions into the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos by Wednesday morning, and hurricane conditions moving in throughout the day Wednesday. So you can see the progression of the wind field here as well. Again, if you're just tuning in, catastrophic and life-threatening flash flooding is likely for Jamaica, along with a storm surge that could be 9 to 13 feet. Extensive infrastructure damage is likely with the storm. Long duration power and communication outages. That, my friends, could be days, if not literal weeks in some areas. Significant landslides and mudslides with feet of rain likely in these areas. This will lead to roads being washed away and isolation of communities. This is as important of information, I think, to pass along as I ever have to any community. If you do live on Jamaica, you have to take this storm as seriously as you possibly can. Hopefully preparations are completely done. I understand that in some areas, there's only so much that can be done, but whatever you think you best can do to protect your property, yourself, and your family, I urge you to have those actions already completed or get them done right now. The weather is going downhill in a very fast way, and this is a very serious and life-threatening situation, which is likely to just get worse as we go through the rest of tonight and into Monday and Tuesday. It's already a borderline Cat 5. I'm not really sure I will merger, to answer your question. I mean, when you have, with an eye wall replacement cycle, what will happen is a larger outer eye wall, as this eye begins to shrink in diameter, an outer eye wall will begin to develop around it, almost a second concentric ring, and that one will ultimately collapse on the inner eye wall, right? And so you actually get all of this black and white to come back into the center, and then you don't have that prominent eye, that classic buzzsaw that we're seeing right now for a short time. But within about a day or so, we start to see a new inner eye wall begin to form, and it starts to expand back out, and it becomes this presentation again. A lot of storms, after they go through eye wall replacement cycles, can actually even come out stronger. It's just a temporary lowering of the maximum winds. But sometimes what happens during eye wall replacement cycles is that the wind fields with the storms expand. So it's not really a great thing, right? If we're talking about a storm that is already going to bring devastating winds because of the intensity, regardless if it's 120, 140, 160, not a lot of difference when we're talking about structures and getting knocked down to the foundation when we're dealing with those kinds of winds. What we would really like to see, though, is to not have the hurricane force winds and the tropical storm force wind fields expand. Remember, right now, they're already doing so. At the 2 o'clock advisory, tropical storm force winds extended 175 miles from the center. So they went out this far, about there. We'll say that's good enough. Fully going to encompass the island once they begin to spin in. But now they extend 205 miles out, this far away. These tropical storm force winds are even within this area of the storm. They are brushing the coastline of the western peninsula of Haiti, right? This is on the northeast side. This is your strongest part of the storm. You've got some solid winds down here, which are more than 200 miles away from the center, right? And again, the storm itself right now is about 80 miles south of the Kingston area, is not likely to get much closer to the island the remainder of tonight, today and tonight, but beginning that slow northwest turn overnight and more of a due north track on Monday before ultimately pulling a little bit east of north over the island. The Hurricane Center says late Monday night or Tuesday morning. Likely that is going to be sometime on Tuesday for actual landfall. Again, I appreciate you guys tuning in. You got a question, drop it in the comment section below. Appreciate all the support of the channel as well. All of our members. Appreciate all of the new members. Appreciate all of those who have found ways to support the channel, like Dead Life Better and Fiona and Blue Goose and Valerie and Online Genie. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate allowing this channel to continue in that regard.
We're going to show you some new weapon features of The Outer Worlds 2. Armageddon, a weapon that launches creature arms that attach to people's bodies.
This one is kind of disarming.
Literally the opposite.
Right.
And the shrink ray.
That got a 4.8 on WikiPedia.
What?
The way in which meetings like sessions keep the field moving forward is presenting the highest level science to the
is not cooperating too much. Let's see here. Come on, my man. Yeah, you know, fortunately, we're having this issue where when we're on, I'm having a hard time pulling in new video. We'll have to try and work on it. Because it should be there. Should be there, and I don't want to ruin anything else. I'm trying to think if there's any other way I can do it. Yep. You know, feel free to put it in there as well. Now, what I will do real quickly is this. Let's get the new information on the screen, right? So we get category 4 Melissa. We've got winds of 145 miles an hour. We have pressure of 941 millibars, right? Yeah, I'm moving west at 5. Okay. And again, this information will live on the top of the screen here. I don't think we want that. Some in lowercase, some in uppercase. That would be an interesting thing. All right, let's bring this up. Okay. How's everyone doing? Are we doing okay? Let's take a second and do some group therapy. How are we doing? Where are you guys viewing from? If you're on Jamaica, what has the mood been like? You know, what has been the conversation with family? What has been the conversation with children? I think I do want to take a quick second and talk about that kind of messaging. You know, this video, this live stream, you know, this is about getting you guys prepared for what I see coming to Jamaica and other areas, right? You know, we can go over the numbers, but obviously there is a human component to this. And some of those humans are very small humans who I imagine are a little bit on the scared and nervous side, like us adults are as well. The advice I would have for you is try and be as calm and collected as possibly can, while not ignoring the fact of what is likely to come, but have a reassuring voice, you know, through this, and that everything is being done to keep them as safe as possible. But this will be a scary time for kids who haven't experienced this before. And I'm sure it's a scary time for you. And there's only so much that can be said and done, but you know, you guys are going to lead that charge as far as, you know, how you present what this storm is going to be like. It is scary and it is dangerous and it is life-threatening. But trying to keep our kids as calm as possible during these times is good for everyone, right? Don't shield them from the fact of what this storm could be, you know, because they're going to experience it with you, but just let them know that you've done what you can to keep them as safe as possible, right? It's important because they won't fully understand what is happening now and what will be happening over the storm, but they will be impacted just like you after the storm as well. And potentially their lives will be altered in the short term as well. Schools being closed potentially for a long time, you know, isolation from other family and friends, isolation in the form of no way of communication. You know, they'll be impacted just like you guys. So, you know, my advice to you, and, you know, again, I live in Florida. Hurricane Milton last year was very impactful to our area. I do live inland, but we had some home damage, nothing outrageous, nothing that was bad, but there was a little bit more damage than what I expected. And it was a really, noisy, scary night. And you just, walk in and tell the kids, say, look, this is what I expect to happen. This is what we've done to prepare, and we're going to get through it together as a family. Okay. Hi, Sapphire. How you doing? From the ABC Islands. I'm doing okay. How are you? It is still the calm, if you will, before the worst part of the storm. There's no doubt about it, right? Where you see these blacks and whites, my friends, this is where we're really starting to see your sustained tropical storm force winds. Now, earlier today, right, Kingston, 46-mile-an-hour wind, Montego Bay, 53. Significant wind in these areas, but they're coming in gusts right now rather than in sustained winds. Hi, Brent. How are you? Everything is okay right now. Again, this live stream is to show you what's happening and get you prepared. And then tomorrow and Tuesday, it is all hands on deck. We've got a storm approaching the island. We're into storm mode here at Media Mundo. This will not hit the United States. Raymond, I hate to tell you, but it likely is. Your opinion is your opinion, and you can voice that, but I wish there was a better idea or a better solution to this. But everything that I've seen today has this storm making a direct impact. I don't want to lower, our guard on the island. It's okay to have an opinion that is not coinciding with what I'm saying with the hurricanes. That's fine. That being said, everyone needs to know where, again, it's up to you who you choose to believe, right? And who you choose to follow and where the information comes from, something outlandishly wrong, yeah, we'll delete and remove you and all that kind of stuff. But people are allowed to have their opinions. I will counter, I will contradict or counteract those opinions with the science of what we're saying. But you're entitled to your opinion. Again, I apologize. I guess I'm doing this on stream. I'm trying to get this last video from him up.
All right, I don't know if you can hear this video because of the wind, but I'm a mile away from Kingston's airport. It's just down there.
Yeah. The oil replacement cycle could be okay for Jamaica, but again, appreciably, the fact that this storm is as big as it is, and the fact that we're going to have 140, 150, 160 mile-an-hour winds around the center of this, yes, it might take down the intensity maximum winds slightly, but as I've mentioned several times, but I think it's a good thought for you guys to have in your heads. What is the difference in your area from 120 mile-an-hour sustained wind to 140 to 160? When you look at the homes and the businesses that are in your area and what they can withstand, is there really much of a difference between 120 or 140 or 160? Maybe just a little bit, but most structures that are going to fail in 160 mile-an-hour winds will fail in 140 mile-an-hour winds, will likely fail in 120 mile-an-hour winds, and that is about as low as I would expect us to get anywhere near with this storm. You're welcome. Yeah, so I've got some video, guys. I'm trying to bring in newer video from Alex, and if you guys are just tuning in, we can look at his older video. But I can't, if I restart something, I'm afraid that the live stream will go away. And so we've had this issue lately where while we're on live, pulling in new video has become a bit of a bear, and it shouldn't. And so I'm working with some of the guys who helped me out on the technical side to get that resolved. We're not really sure why at this point in time the system has decided that it doesn't want to pull in new video, but we're trying for you. Again, I don't think I I think unfortunately it's the program I'm using that's not allowing it to come in. So if I do it, whatever. But if you guys want to see, let's check out, this is Alex's video from just a little bit ago from when he was in Kingston. I'm trying to get his video from St. Thomas coming up here in just a second. So here's his video from...
All right, I don't know if you can hear this video because of the wind, but I'm a mile away from Kingston's airport. It's just down there. This is what our storm surge is looking like at the moment. Not too bad, definitely higher than it normally is. Definitely expecting it to pick up, and I'll get some videos later.
Okay, so that was Alex in Kingston. He moved over to St. Thomas. And again, I am trying to figure out how to get this newest video for you guys to see. We have to do it in this program, though. Unfortunately, it, as they say, shouldn't be this hard, and I'm a little not happy with the fact that it's not showing up. You know, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting, it worked. I was about to say, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting it to work, and then it worked. Okay. All right, so we have this video. Give me just one more second here, guys. I need to make sure that you guys should be able to hear this. All right.
Global even everybody, hold on. Anybody there in that chat fan yard can update me what going in your neck of the woods?
Okay. Actually, stick with me one more second here. Come on, pop up. Be the right one. I've got it in one local file. I'm trying to get it to go into one. So I'm going to play this video. The one thing I don't know is if Alex's, I don't know if you're going to hear him, right? So I will listen with you guys. If we can't hear him the first time, I will try and make it to where we can hear his audio, but hopefully we can. So I'm going to take myself off camera and we're going to watch some video from Alex St. Thomas talking about the tidal surge already ongoing in the southeast side of the state.
There's that storm surge that we were talking about earlier. It's starting to roll in. It's about 4 p.m. I'm in St. Thomas, parish of St. Thomas, one of the most eastern parishes in Jamaica. This is a beach that I frequent, and the water actually usually stops right down there, but as you can see, it's rolling right in. We usually have at least 50 or so feet of sand. Let me just wipe my lens. 50 or so feet of sand, but look at this, storm surge rolling right in. Getting gnarly out there. There's that storm surge that we were talking about earlier. It's starting to roll in. It's about 4 p.m. I'm in St. Thomas, parish of St. Thomas, one of the most eastern parishes in Jamaica. This is a beach that I frequent, and the water actually usually stops right down there, but as you can see, it's rolling right in. We usually have at least 50 or so feet of sand. Let me just wipe my lens. 50 or so feet of sand, but look at this, storm surge rolling right in. Getting gnarly out there.
Okay, and I'm 99% confident that you guys could hear Alex, right? Considering that none of you said, "Hey, I can't hear him" when I played that, and I know I played it twice in a row. Yeah, so it's not him, it's me. It's when we bring on these videos and I bring it into my system, I have certain ones like where the file wouldn't play the audio, and I just want to make sure that I didn't have it to where the audio of the file wasn't playing. That's all. If for some reason it wasn't, I could have gone back and reset it. But you get the idea, right? Now, again, look, guys, this was a few hours ago. This was a few hours ago on the southeast side of the island in the St. Thomas Parish area there, right? Where I was telling you guys about beautiful area, beautiful beach, everything. But you saw the wave action already, right? You saw what was already happening with this storm and how it's already churning up the surf and the seas and the swells. And we're at the beginning. We are at the very beginning of this happening. And that's the problem. Look how even in just the last couple of hours, how the storm has expanded a little bit. It's getting larger. The wind fields are expanding. And again, on the southeast side of the island, you're going to have your onshore winds. You're going to have this flow that continues to work its way into, inland locations, right? That's the wind profile of the storm here, where these winds are onshore right now in the eastern and the southeast side of the island. Appreciate Alex sending that in. Thank you, my friend. He's been spinning around. Appreciate Justin in the Treasure Beach area as well. And again, for tomorrow's live stream, we hope to bring you guys live coverage on the island. It might be a little bit dependent on how the internet and Starlink is holding up there on the island, but we hope that that is the case. So stick around for that as well. One thing that we definitely want to do here at Media Mundo is to tell the story where these areas are being impacted. And again, and if one of my moderators wouldn't mind doing it, mymediamundo@gmail.com. If you want to collaborate on a potential sending videos to me or potentially doing some live updates, send me a email at mymediamundo@gmail.com. I can provide you some of the specifics. Not only here, but down the road, if you happen to live in Southeast Cuba, or the Southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Obviously, look, this is gonna be a marathon, not a sprint when it comes to covering Melissa. We've got what is likely to be 4 days in a row of coverage, today through Wednesday, as the storm continues to impact some areas. So, if you live in Southeast Cuba, if you live in the Bahamas or Turks and Caicos, I've got you covered, right? We'll be monitoring this storm and going on live as these storms are impacting the areas. Thank you, Farah. Hi, Elka Vision. How you doing? Appreciate the kind words there for everyone. Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, again, he's doing a fantastic job. It was just whether I brought in the audio myself. And part of the reason is that it's hard to do everything at once, but I'm trying. Hey, Ridge Runner, how you doing? Right, Montan, I do my best, right? There's, what gets me up in the morning is not, to elevate or hype a storm. It's to try and tell these stories in as clear, understandable, concise manner as possible so that more people can understand what is likely to happen in these areas. As I've mentioned several times in my personal life, I've already been through all of the major storms, hoping for the next one in that level, it doesn't get me going, right? It's about the messaging and spreading the word and trying to provide information for those who are seeking it, right? And maybe doing that in a way that you guys enjoy and can relate to, and you keep coming back for as well. Hey, Gaming with Jamie, one Media Mundo gift membership on the way. Appreciate that. Farah got it. I love it. Very deserved. One of our moderators, Farah, got Gamey's gift membership. That's awesome. Thanks, Gaming with Jamie. Appreciate you. Big supporter of the channel, and Farah is as well. That's really cool. Appreciate all the support, guys. I mean, and again, let me just check here. I am getting some other videos. It's a little bit harder with people I don't have established yet. But again, just to reiterate, I think he probably said it, but he told me that, the tides come up at least 12 feet from the usual tide to where the structure is. It's amazing that that's happening right now, right? And that this storm is still 80 miles offshore and is slowly creeping west. No deviation from the centerline track since we've been on. This thing has been situated that way. Unfortunately, all of the models are showing this turn north. And I know that some folks are hoping that that's not the case. I'm here to tell you that while an opportunity to miss the island is not zero, the
Anyone
most likely
from
scenario
Clarendon,
by a very wide
Southwest
margin is
Clarendon
that
in the
unfortunately
chat,
we have a
please?
direct landfall
Anyone from
on Jamaica
Southwest
sometime on
Clarendon
Tuesday.
in the chat?
And not only that, but it's likely to be a high-end Cat 4, if not even a Cat 5. This is the most significant messaging I think I've spoken to, certainly since I've been doing the Media Mundo channel, but throughout potentially my entire career. And I've been doing this for over 25 years, guys. Seen a lot of really bad storms, seen a lot of high-end impacts. Melissa will be up there on that list, if not even number one. And it's tough to say, but we have to be honest with ourselves as to what this storm is likely to bring. Thank you all, Marie. Appreciate the kind words. Yep, good advice, sales only, right? If you can, right? Radio is always a great form of communication. Now, who knows what kind of, radio is going to be available on the island, but that is one way to get information. Any kind of battery backup, any kind of generator backup. I know that we don't have that, and not everyone has access to that, but if you do, you want to make sure that those batteries are as charged as possible, that the generators are good to go in a very safe way, that you're just as prepared as you possibly can. A couple of other things to add on to that. Documentation is important, right? If you have important documentation like birth certificates and things like that, the simplest way to, anything, right? Any important document in your life, okay, that you don't want to get flooded out, the easiest way is to put it in a Ziploc, right? Put it in a Ziploc, and then if you maybe want to tape the Ziploc, but that's just a waterproof barrier for the most part, right? Obviously, getting it out of any potential flood waters, putting it in some kind of a safe, but important documentation. For those who are on medications, want to make sure that you have enough of a supply to get through this storm, right? We don't want to be on daily medication that is vital to our health and run out in the middle of the storm or just after the storm and not have the means of transportation to get additional medicine. So, hopefully as part of your preparation on Jamaica and in other areas down the road, Southeast Cuba and the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, that's another thing to keep in mind. Remember your pets as well. Do what you can to make sure that they are as safe as possible during these storms as well. And obviously that they're inside. Those animals that can be inside, just want to remember our furry friends as well. But, one of the things that people don't talk about a lot is the fact that when you get stranded in an area for days and days and days after a storm, what do you need to survive on a daily basis, right? Food, water, medicine are always top of mind. So don't forget the medicine part as well. If you're running out of an important, medication that you need on a daily basis for your health, you want to make sure you have enough of a supply to get through this storm. Yeah, Random Anton, that's the problem. We are talking about rain in feet. We'll go back over all these graphics that I made right now. Might as well do that. So again, we're getting to 6 o'clock. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We've been live now for what, about 4 hours or so. We'll talk more about coverage plans coming up, but obviously we've got a lot of coverage here on the channel for the next 4 days. A lot to happen with that. If you're just tuning in, this is the 5 o'clock advisory from the Hurricane Center. Those numbers are on the top of your screen. Melissa is a category 4. Winds sustained are 145 miles an hour. It's hard to even fathom what sustained winds of 145 miles an hour look like. But unfortunately, that's what we have with that storm. The pressure is dropping. It means that the storm is getting stronger as the area of low pressure is deepening near the center. So the lowest pressure is down to 941. Lower the number is a stronger storm. Winds are it's moving west at 5 miles an hour, right? So it's still creeping. It's picked up a little bit of forward speed today, but it's still moving just west at 5 miles an hour. The obviously presentation on the satellite imagery is as classic of a major hurricane as you get. We have great outflow on all sides. We have an expanding wind field where the tropical storm force winds, those are winds of 39 miles an hour sustained or greater, now extend 205 miles from the east side of the storm, right? The wind profile field is not as expansive on the western side as what we typically see, but again, a very, very classic hurricane at this point in time, structurally as impressive as anyone that I've seen lately. And you can put Beryl, and you can put Milton, and you can put Helene from last year, all within that category. Of course, with the visible satellite imagery, we lose it at the end of the day, but you get this golden hour of visible satellite imagery here, where as the sun gets lower in the horizon, you get a more shadowy effect here from this vis imagery. Let me just take off this track here so it's a little bit easier to see. So look at the last couple of frames here. First of all, just look at how impressive that storm is and how massive it is, how wide it is. Then you get these shadow effects, right? So these thunderstorms are kind of bubbling up on top, and these are tremendously high cloud tops. The surface, the cloud top temperatures are minus 75, minus 80 degrees Celsius. That's how high they're getting into the atmosphere. And then look at that. Look at these last couple of frames. Look at that eye.
What's the situation in St. Thomas at the moment, Reginald?
The lightning near the eye, inducive of development, of strengthening, and then that shadowing effect over the last couple of frames. Unfortunately, a wildly impressive storm. You know, some of the outflows being felt in the Cayman Islands, southeast Cuba, all of the significant moisture is still just slapping into Hispaniola as well. And again, hurricane warning, which is why we're pulsing in red here in Jamaica. Hurricane watch for Cuba, but I feel like did they upgrade that? Now there's an opportunity that so portions of southeast Cuba are now under a hurricane warning. Sometimes my system won't pick up the newest ones unless we do a quick reboot on that, which I can, but yeah, we now have a hurricane warning there as well. All right. So on to some of these graphics that I told you guys, because we need to talk about impacts.
Lachlan,
All right.
they have a similar.
We'll start in the eastern side of the island.
But it's on the ODPEM website.
Kingstar 9402, there is an area of high pressure west and east, which is why the storm is basically not moving anywhere right now, because there's a net basically neutral impact from both areas of high pressure. But yes, an area of high pressure west is not allowing it to move west. Eventually, we're going to get a little bit of a weakness to the north and a southwest wind, which should pull the storm north over the island. Right now, the track from the hurricane.
If you've got kids under 16 in the UK, please listen to this. What would happen to your family if your income just stopped tomorrow?
West, and then this turn to the north. Now, again, where it might make landfall on Jamaica is certainly still up in the air, but there's not a lot of plausible scenarios that pull this storm away from the island. I hate to say that. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm trying to be honest with you guys. That if you live on Jamaica, you should expect direct major hurricane impacts to the island beginning late tomorrow night and especially throughout the day on Tuesday. That's what we have to prepare for. Indeed, Eddie, I'll add on to it. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. You guys are awesome. You know, I love my Media Mundo community. I appreciate all those who have supported the channel from day one, or maybe you're just tuning in right now. All of you are welcome, and we're going to get through this storm together. So let's go over the likely impacts. And again, it was very hard to type this up, knowing that these are all very plausible. And from looking at the 5 o'clock advisory from the Hurricane Center, these are all right in line with what they're discussing, right? So for the central and eastern, let me try that again. For the southern coastline, from the central parishes to the eastern parishes, like Eastern Manchester and Clarendon, St. Catherine, St. Andrew, Kingston, and St. Thomas parishes, along and east of the center of where it is likely to make landfall, again, we are more than likely to get sustained winds of 130 to 160 miles an hour. This is sustained winds. And to be talking about the level of destruction that those winds could provide is uncalculable. It's hard to fathom what those winds could bring. So for Mandeville and Maypen and Hayes and Old Harbor and Spanish Town and Portmore, Halfway Tree, Kingston, Yawlis, Morant Point, Morant Bay, especially if you live anywhere near the coast, because it's not only wind, it's not only significant rain, but it's the storm surge as well, a inundation of water, right? Imagine standing and looking at the coast and you see a wall of water 13 feet high moving in. That is likely to occur with Melissa. With the storm movement and winds all in this southeast to northwest fashion, with the orientation of the bays here near Kingston and Old Harbor collecting all of that water. I mean, because the shoreline is facing in the exact direction the wind and the waves are likely to push, it's about the maximum storm surge these areas could see. That's why I've highlighted this. I'm very concerned about the Kingston area, Old Harbor area, other coastal communities for the inundation of water, meaning how much water above ground level is likely to come in with Melissa, right? There's a big bubble of water that it's lifted by the storm, literally lifted, and that is on top of any waves and swells that we see. So the storm surge is 9 to 13 feet, right? 3-4 meters, something like that. And I've mentioned how that could be a little conservative. It stinks to say that, but it could. We'll look a little bit more at the storm surge coming up, but you get the idea of the amount of water that could be pulling in. You saw the video from a few hours ago in St. Thomas from Alex. That's significant churned up conditions, and we're just getting started, right? You know, what will this look like this time tomorrow? The rainfall is outrageous to discuss, but again, the models, the Hurricane Center, have this in the 15 to 30 inch range for the eastern side of the island, right? Locally up to 40 inches. It's more than 3 feet of rain. The amount of flooding, the amount of flash flooding, the fast moving water, the washing out of roads, the flooding of entire low-lying areas could be historic. With that much rain that could fall up to 1,000 millimeters in a couple of spots. I hope we're on the south end, the lower end of this band of rain potential, but even 15 inches is going to cause some real serious problems, and we're lucky if we get just that. Now, as the storm moves north and inland, obviously it will weaken a bit, but it's likely to move a little bit faster. My thought would be right now that the storm's probably moving in the 10 to 12 mile an hour range over the island. It will be picking up some forward speed. So the winds will reduce a little bit when you get to St. Anne and St. Mary and Portland parishes, but not much, right? Ocho Rios, Port Maria, Port Antonio, areas like that will likely still see significant major hurricane force winds being on the eastern side of the storm. If we go over to the western side of the island, again, you know, it might matter a little bit with landfall, right? As far as who's going to see the worst storm surge. Remember, and we've talked about this many times, so I'm happy to go over it again. The fact that when you're west of where the landfall is, west of the eye, your winds are going to be out of the north because of the counterclockwise. It does negate the storm surge some, certainly not all the way and not the majority, but because the storm's coming this way and the surface winds are coming this way, so the storm movement and the storm and the winds are going in opposite directions. There's a little bit of a net negative there with the storm surge, and the winds are a little bit weaker on the western side. But still, for most of Manchester and St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland parishes, you're looking at major hurricane force winds as a likelihood. And again, a farther shift west, while some people might be like, okay, hey, you know, trying to get a little bit farther west, let's keep it going. It puts more of the island on the east side of the storm, in the worst quadrant of the storm. So I actually don't like the trend. There's no good scenario here. But the problem with a more west track, but still making landfall, is that just more of the island falls under the maximum winds and the maximum storm surge. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate you very much. Thank you for being a member. Thank you for your $5 super chat. Friends, let's take a second. Let's get the hearts out in chat for Jim for helping to support the channel. Thank you very much. All right, so west side of the island looks like this. Black River, Treasure Beach, Savlamar areas, Negril, 6 to a 9 foot storm surge. Again, it could be higher. It's a little bit more of an estimate on the western side. But again, you know, someone, well, I wish I was 6 feet tall, but let's just say someone my height, you know, that moving inland, right? You know, think about how much that could cause damage to coastal areas. And it's not just some steady wall of water, there's wave action as well. And, you know, obviously the battering of the waves, right? And what that can do. And a 6 to a 9 foot storm surge is so significant. I know we're talking about the lower numbers here, but if I just presented this to you as a storm moving into your area, what would you think, right? And the fact that these are the lower amounts that are likely on the island really is shocking. You get up to Hanover and St. James and Trelawney parishes, we're likely to see Cat 1 to Cat 2 force winds on the northwest side of the storm, still hurricane force winds, right? Gusts could be higher than that, still very significant winds. Now again, you get to Falmouth and Montego Bay and Lucy, the winds are out of the north, so you have an onshore wind there. So there could still be some storm surge on the northwest side of the island as well. The biggest wall of water is going to occur on the south side because that's the storm in the eye coming in. But the local winds being out of the north, on the northwest side of the island, can cause some inundation of water there. Rainfall totals, 10 to 20 inches. Again, with some of the higher terrain, the hillier interior sections of the western side of the island, really concerned about that water rushing down into the valleys and how fast that water can be moving and how quickly the flooding can occur in some of those areas. 250 to 625 millimeters of rain, 10 to 25 inches, right? So it's a vital concern here for these areas, you know, and just the wind and the rain and even the storm surge impact for these spots. Now, let me be clear as well. I always tell you guys this, if you guys followed me through any of the storms in the last couple of years, you always check in with your local government and your local officials, right? For any important, timely information for them to pass along to you guys, right? And to heed those watches and warnings and whatever local advice that they're giving you, right? I'm doing the best I can to keep up with all of that, to give you all the scenarios and all the impacts, but it is always your responsibility to take action and to follow local government and local official advice, okay? But we know in all of Jamaica We have to take this storm as seriously as we ever have any storm, right? We will hope for the best. We will prepare for the worst, and we'll get through this together. All right. A couple of other things I want to show you guys here. Again, I've got a plethora of graphics that I brought up. So back over here real quickly to just the close-up view of the Kingston area, right? So I asked Alex earlier, I said, please tell me there's no, please tell me there's no airplanes left at the airport. And he goes, not that I can see, right? My thought is that the Port Royal area there, Maiden Key, Port Royal, Norman Manley Airport, Harbor View, will likely be inundated by water. When you're talking about a 9 to 13 foot storm surge, right? Then you get towards Great Goat Island and Little Goat Island, and I believe probably Colon Bay, and then Peak Bay and Coleman's Bay. All of the areas kind of surrounding Old Harbor and Freetown and Salt River and the Portland Cottage area, all of this area, and I bring it up because, again, the orientation of the shoreline and the fact that this is all going to be onshore wind and wave action here, right? This is the area of the island I'm most concerned about inundation of water and how far inland that water could get. How far inland, right, into southern Kingston does this wall of water go? Port Moore, is in a horrible orientation for the water and the winds to be coming right directly inland and to drive as far inland as possible. The western side, just to the west of Old Harbor, is the same situation. Now, a little bit more rural areas out here, but any areas on the western side here of the bay likely to experience a maximum of a storm surge. So we'll have to monitor that situation, but based on the track and how strong the storm is likely to be, the water coming with the storm, I think it's hard to imagine. I really do. This is the wave heights. And I want to be clear, this is tomorrow morning. This is not even the maximum, right? I was looking at this and I said, I've just got to show them tomorrow morning. Forget Monday night and Tuesday morning when the storm's actually moving in. Storm's still out here. But you've got this onshore wind that's just battering the eastern side. Remember, counterclockwise winds around a hurricane. So east side of the storm, east winds to northeast, and they spin back north to the west and then come back out of the south on the south side of the storm. But, that's the spin. And then there's your maximum right here. And all of that is a wind that wants to push the water as far inland as it possibly can. I think I've only shown this once, but I think it deserves showing again. Yeah, let's get over 1,000 likes. That sounds good to me. I truly hope we are not talking about a storm that's pressure begins with an 8.
Are you hitting the like button globally?
Like Gilbert, but low 900s is not out of the question. So again, if you tune in at the beginning of the stream, I showed this. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to give you my same explanation. I look at all the different models for days and days and days and days and days, right? So, I'm keeping an eye on the model trends, some of the maximums, some of the minimums, some of the models that are completely out to lunch, like the GFS. If you notice, I haven't mentioned the GFS model in a while. It has done horrendously with Melissa, whereas with previous storms, it actually did very well. But the GFS this time did not have its act together. The HAFS-A has done pretty well with the storm, right? As far as track and intensity and location, kind of in fair agreement with the European model and the Google DeepMind and places like that. So this is the HAFS-A as of 1 o'clock, early afternoon, let's call it Tuesday, okay? Now, the HAFS-A is a little bit slower than the Hurricane Center's timeline because it doesn't have it moving inland until now. But I point out to you what the maximum sustained winds and mile per hour are on this model. And that's over 175 mile an hour winds. I want to be clear, I don't expect that to happen, but to pass along the information that's available to me in at least of a plausible scenario. On the highest end of this, you have a high resolution hurricane model with a good track record, which shows you that it could be coming in with sustained winds over 170 miles an hour. I don't expect that to happen. Hopefully we'll get this eyewall replacement cycle, but I want to show you all the information that I have, right? If we look at the gusts, same model, right? The gusts, 190. Now, you saw from the track from the Hurricane Center that they had 160 gusts to 190 when it was a Cat 5. So this is not like so far out of reach that it's just completely implausible to have, and hopefully before landfall, gusts with the storm up to 190 miles an hour. It's sickening to think about that that could be reality, but it could, or very close. Oh, yeah. All right. This is the same model, the HAFS-A. This is the simulated rain, or like a simulated radar, right? So it takes its output and it says, what does the reflectivity look like, or the rain with the storm? And again, the big problem with this track from Melissa is that the northeast side of the storm stays over the island the longest. It's the part of the storm that impacts the island the longest. So you have the heaviest rainfall and the strongest winds over the island for the longest duration of time. So the rain really sets in overnight. Look at your time frame here. This is getting into Monday afternoon now. And then look at how heavy the rain is across the entire island. Now the HAFS-A was always slightly west of the Hurricane Center's track at 11 a.m. And they've really nudged it just by miles, but they've nudged it a little bit west, even closer to what this HAFS-A shows. And I want to be clear, down the road, if you look, here is Hispaniola, right? Continuing with the heavy rain there. Some rain for portions of the Cayman Islands, some, but more scattered in nature. And then again, really significant rain over the island as it's still moving quite slowly until it finally accelerates. But we get 10 to 20 inches in Cuba, and maybe 4 to 8 plus in the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Now, by this time, the storm is rapidly accelerating away. So obviously, the faster a storm moves, the less time it sits over one particular area. Thus, the maximum of rain is likely to come down a bit because of that. And that's what we see through the path of the storm. But, when we look at the GFS model here, as far as rainfall totals go, and again, I get to sit in the background here and figure out where I put that graphic. Let's see. All right. Oh yeah, there's that one. Boy, my system is doing a few weird things. So it should be this one. I know you guys should still be seeing the one graphic anyway. It's all good. All right, there it is. Boy, it's getting weird on me. Rainfall total in inches in the European model, right? Anywhere hitting this purple is 20 plus inches of rain. But even though the legend only goes up to 20, the model can still pick out the maximum on the map. The maximum on the map is over 34 inches of rain, and that's going to be in the central and the eastern sides of Jamaica, right? From the European model. And again, over time, because of the acceleration of Melissa, the rainfall totals won't be as prominent, but still 10 to 20 inches southeast Cuba, still an additional 8 to 16 inches over the western sides of Haiti, which could give them 30 to 40 inches for a storm total, because they're already in the thick of it with the flooding. The news that I've seen out of Haiti and other areas of South Dominican Republic, it's catastrophic. It's ongoing. Our thoughts are with our friends there. We're talking about isolation of communities and roads being completely washed out, and just the flooding causing travel to probably not, be hindered for weeks and weeks to come. It's a significant life-threatening situation in Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and they are still to get potentially more than a foot of rain from this storm. Swung my mic a little bit different. Deterministic model of the European, again, I think right on, the Hurricane Center has pretty much been in agreement with this for a while. Why is this thing all crooked? I want to try and look sharp for you guys if I can. Again, you can discount the intensity of the storm as far as pressure. It is outperforming that by a wide margin, right? So it's already stronger. But looking at the track, you've got the slow movement west and then the turn north. Very slowly, landfall on the European model is right around daybreak or just before on Tuesday morning. And then moving over southeast Cuba, late Tuesday, early Wednesday, and then through the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos throughout the day on Wednesday. Maybe us lingering into early portions of Thursday as well. This is back to the half-day model, right? This is going to be the lowest pressure that I've seen, but that goes along with those winds, right? Those winds that were Cat 5 plus. So the sustained winds were Cat 5 plus in the half-day. Pressure's down to 913. Look, it's down to 941 right now. If the eyewall replacement cycle doesn't happen or occurs and is a very quick cycle, and this storm can get stronger again, 913 again is not out of the question. We've still got, at least 30 hours before landfall, but likely longer than that, maybe 38 to 40 hours before landfall. So we're at 941. We got 40 hours before landfall, let's say. We need to go down 28 more millibars. We need to lose, there needs to only drop less than 1 millibar an hour to get to that number. Gotta hope that doesn't happen. But scientifically, it's a plausible scenario for this storm to deepen in that variety. Now, eyewall replacement cycles, again, would elevate or raise the pressure some, and we wouldn't get to this number. And let's hope we don't. But as a plausible scenario, it is. And again, we already looked at that. This is the H-WRF. It's a little bit farther west. It's a little bit weaker, where the pressure almost is right now. So that would be indicative of, hey, there was an eyewall replacement cycle. The storm didn't really gain much more strength, but this would still be a Cat 4, likely. Could even be a Cat 5, but the pressure on 938, yes, again, the H-WRF is on the western tip of the island as it moves in early on Tuesday. But what's the problem? Again, more of the island is on the eastern side, and as large as Melissa is likely to be, while that could mitigate a little bit of the wind impacts for Portland and St. Thomas and maybe even Kingston, right? You've got the entire island now under the east side of the storm, the dirty side of the storm. And we're still having a direct landfall on the western edge of the storm, even with the farther west H-WRF model. Yeah, anyone who is interested in providing some coverage, whether it's videos or anything else, just email me and I can pass along some of the information as to how we're going to do it. It's a bit of a circus, but we're making it work. And we're going to have more extensive, we hope, live coverage and video coverage from Jamaica tomorrow and Tuesday, right? Hey, Jay, St. Lucia in the house. How we doing? Again, let me check here. Again, thank you to Gaming with Jamie. Thank you to Jim for the recent fan funding of the channel via your gifting of memberships and your super thanks. Again, if you would like to do that, plenty of ways that you can do that via the super thanks and that heart button that you see. There's also ways in the video description below as well if you choose to do it that way. Again, I appreciate everyone in the chat hitting that like button for me and subscribing to help us keep going as well. We really appreciate all the support here at Media Mundo. Again, just looking at this storm with the eye in the last hour, it continues to impress. and that is not a good thing. Again, I have access to reconnaissance aircraft data. Let's see where they are in the storm right now. Looks like the last reports are going to be still the same ones that we had earlier, and these are going to be a little bit deeper later ago. So that was 2 hours ago. I don't see anything else. I might restart the system here real quick. Let's do that. I think this is a perfect time, guys. I'm going to do a quick little reboot. And while I do that, I'm going to bring up our video, and I'll be back here in just a second. I think we'll be able to get some new information if I do this quick reboot here. So you guys really love this music, by the way. I know you do. I've heard so. By the way, it's just YouTube Creator Studio music. I don't really have access to it. I think someone asked for a CD. I don't think I could do a CD. But anyway, all right. I'll be back in just a second, guys.
While Russ is off camera, I want to bring you an interview with Colonel Charles and... Did I not bring it in? Yeah. With Colonel Charles and Fox News. Here with us.
Come on in, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's very, very important that we speak to you. Thank you. And you've got the camera right here. I appreciate you come on in a little bit right here. Your name, you're Minister of Social Security.
Colonel Charles, you're the Minister of Labor and Social Security. Also, Member of Parliament for Southeast Clarendon, which is one of the most at-risk areas in the country.
And let's get to that point right now. This track right now, as it speaks, is going to cut to the west of Kingston and through some of those central areas, south central areas of Jamaica. Your biggest concern as far as the residents right now and your mission?
So, of course, the biggest concern is to save lives. Next is to mitigate or to minimize damage to property and to the community. So we are, of course, urging all residents to go to higher ground. For instance, in Clarendon, St. Catherine, Manchester, which is where it's projecting to be now, we have shelters, evacuation centers. There are family and friends that are willing to take persons in who are in the low-lying areas or the flood-prone areas. And so we've already activated our communication protocol, and we've asked residents, and we want to urge residents who are listening, who are watching, to take this very, very seriously. The last time we had any landfall of a hurricane was in 2012 with Hurricane Sandy, and that was a Category 1. And there was significant destruction to bridges and to infrastructure, also to homes. So if we juxtapose that, look on what happened with us with Beryl, which was just the outer bands, it means we are looking on significant damage if this continues along this current trajectory. So we've asked persons to not wait until it gets to a point that it's difficult to evacuate or to save you, but rather to take early action. Several of these residents are very aware because they live in areas where we've had these kind of protocols many times. This is not the case where you should be saying, let's wait it out.
Right.
This is, if there's ever a time for you to listen and to take action, this is now.
This is dire, life and death at this point.
Exactly. It's at Category 4 based on what I've heard. This morning at about 6 o'clock in the Rocky Point area, which is one of the areas along the southern coast, we were already seeing storm surges.
Yeah.
All right, and we're already hearing the roar and the wrath of the seas. And so it is very important that we take heed now. Another very important message is for persons to secure.
All toll barriers along Highway 2000 corridors have been lifted effective at 5 o'clock today and will remain lifted until further notice. So temporary lifting of toll barriers. All toll barriers along the Highway 2000 corridors have been lifted effective 5 p.m.
Okay, if there's one AI site builder you need to meet, it's this dope tech from Wix.
Again, pass along some information. Appreciate all my friends in the throughout the chat and who I know otherwise sending along that information. Try and pass along as much local information as I possibly can. If you guys live in these areas and you have some local information to pass along, feel free to drop it in the chat for you guys as well. All right. Since we have new viewers, right? People are coming in and out all the time. Appreciate all of you. Thanks for hitting that like button for me. I want to get back over to Alex's latest video from St. Thomas, because if you're just tuning in, I think this is some pretty compelling video for you guys to see. So let's get a look at that one more time, the video from Alex in the St. Thomas area. Oh, come on. Don't do that to me now. Hang on. All right.
There's that storm surge that we were talking about earlier. It's starting to roll in. It's about 4 p.m. I'm in St. Thomas, parish of St. Thomas, one of the most eastern parishes in Jamaica. This is a beach that I frequent, and the water actually usually stops right down there, but as you can see, it's rolling right in. We usually have at least 50 or so feet of sand. Let me just wipe my lens. 50 or so feet of sand, but look at this, storm surge rolling right in. Getting gnarly out there.
Okay, again, appreciate Alex sending in that video. He's been running around the southern coastline, Kingston area, all the way towards St. Thomas. Appreciate Justin in the Treasure Beach area sending that in. Again, just kind of a preview here. We anticipate bringing you guys more live streams and more videos from Jamaica for tomorrow's coverage. As you guys know, maybe first of all, maybe you've been watching since we started the channel a couple years ago. Maybe you're brand new to the channel. Anytime we have impactful weather like this across the Caribbean, I'll be going on live covering this storm for you guys live. We did a 12-hour live stream last year for Hurricane Beryl in Jamaica, but we've done countless other live streams for areas as well. And so it's just been a hurricane season where we've been very fortunate. We haven't had a lot of impactful storms. Of course, we covered the storm over the Lesser Antilles earlier this year live for you guys as well. We'll get you covered throughout this entire storm tomorrow, Tuesday, and if necessary and likely necessary in the Southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos even on Wednesday. So a lot of information here in this. Let me just those concentric rings that you see, by the way, are just going to be your wind profile fields. So we know that the hurricane force winds are coming over the island. As I mentioned, a nice little quick reboot of the system did bring up the newest watches and warnings. So you're flashing in red here, Southeast Cuba, hurricane warning now to go along with all of Jamaica. You've got a tropical storm warning in blue for the southwest side of Haiti, and then portions of the Cuban Peninsula as well. And then also for southern Haiti, it's a hurricane watch. So tropical storm warning, tropical storm conditions are likely, hurricane watch, hurricane conditions are possible. And obviously we know hurricane warnings mean that hurricane conditions are likely in these areas. Yeah, make sure you have your notifications on. There's no doubt about that as well. Going to drop that off. Let's bring on our current surface conditions. These are your temperatures in Fahrenheit. These are your winds. Now, earlier in the day, we had a 53-mile-an-hour wind in Montego Bay. We had a 46-mile-an-hour wind in Kingston, but as of last hour, we had another 37-mile-an-hour wind gust in Kingston. So again, the weather will just continue to deteriorate throughout the rest of this Sunday, although the track of Melissa is likely to parallel the island the remainder of this Sunday. So the brunt of what Melissa is going to bring is not likely to hit the island today. All right, let's be clear about that. But beginning tomorrow, and especially later tomorrow, a turn north and eventually northeast in a acceleration of forward speed is anticipated, and a landfall is likely somewhere on Jamaica. Again, not a lot of way to hopefully, there's not a lot of way that we would get very lucky and have the eye miss the island. And even if it tries to move west, it's not moving far enough west to keep a extremely large storm from bringing direct major hurricane impacts to the island. It really stinks to say that, but all signs point to this making a direct landfall on the island more than likely sometime early on Tuesday. It could be as early as very late Monday night. It could be as late as Tuesday afternoon. The timing of the forward speed is still a little bit up in the air. If the storm were to track a little bit farther west before it turns north, that means it's a longer duration. That would actually pull back the timing slightly deeper into Tuesday. But again, we've looked at the scenarios. A farther west track deeper into the waters of the Caribbean for a longer length of time could allow the storm to get even stronger. Maybe we have an eyewall replacement cycle, which knocks down the intensity of the storm or the highest winds, at least for a time. And who knows about the timing of that as of now. But if you live on the island, you have to prepare for major hurricane conditions. West Side said just started to get some moderate showers in Cayman Brac. There you go. So, as far west of the Cayman Islands, they'll get some squalls, right? Little Cayman, Cayman Brac right there. Grand Cayman a little bit farther south and west, but they'll get some squalls. You'll be indirectly impacted by the storm, but if you live in the Cayman Islands, at this point in time, you look to be very fortunate that you're going to be nowhere near where the actual most direct impacts are coming. Hi, Kendra. Chester Castle in Hanover. Appreciate it. Northwest side of the island. Thank you very much. Yep. I'm living near the coastline. I would move ASAP. I mean, I would absolutely second that if you can. You don't, Southern coast, it's the inundation of water that I'm very concerned about, right? If you haven't been through it before, right, it's hard to imagine what 9 to 13 feet of water looks like. Again, if you are tuning in, more recently, my childhood home flooded out by salt water. I was in the home. Literally, you opened the door and you watched the salt water flow in. Now, we were in a situation where we weren't going to see feet and feet of a storm surge into the home, but we had enough, and it's salt water where we out of the home for 6 months. We had to leave the home and they had to completely gut the lower 4 feet of the house, lost all the furniture, lost everything. I've been through it before, right? Growing up on the west coast of Florida, I know the pain. That is minimal compared to what could happen on the island over the next couple of days, right? So I've had personal experience with that kind of displacement. It's not fun. It's not fun to think about, but we have to be prepared. We have to be prepared for what this storm could bring to the coast with a double-digit in feet storm surge, 3-4+ meters of storm surge, and that still could be a bit conservative, just depending on exactly how strong this storm is going to be as it makes landfall. Again, you guys got some questions in the forecast, you let me know. Garrett, how are you doing, my friend? First of all, I hope you're well. It's not hitting tonight. No, it is hitting tomorrow night into Tuesday. Very slow progression off towards the west. I don't have the 5 o'clock advisory map in. I can try an effort to get that, but the 11 o'clock a.m. and it's about the same. Again, slow meandering west tomorrow evening, still offshore, and then moving inland as we get into Tuesday, right? Landfall probably Tuesday morning, And again, that's now a hurricane warning, but just to show you the 11 o'clock, because this track timing hasn't changed much. It's slightly west of this now, but when we're just looking at the dots for timing, it's going to be more than likely early on Tuesday. There is still some wiggle room. Again, I've already mentioned that, but very late Monday night is likely the earliest time frame. The storm itself right now, located, the northern eye wall is about 85 miles from the Kingston Old Harbor area, okay? Roughly. Remember, tropical storm force winds. Oh, that was interesting. I didn't think I could do that with that. Extend outward 205 miles.
Perspective, I would expect school to be
all into these oranges
online for possibly
So as they swing in,
given
that's
the
all
flood
going to be
we
tropical storm force
expect,
winds
at
coming in.
least for a lot of
205 miles from the center, tropical storm force winds extend. Right now, all the hurricane force winds, first of all, the fact that this storm looks the way it does leads me to believe that although the wind field on the east side might be slightly better than the west side, there's not much of a difference, right? All of these bright whites are extremely high cloud tops. All of the lightning, again, we have lightning data here at Media Mundo. You get convection near that eye, and there's likely still a deepening of the pressures. Look at the outflow, right? The storms firing up and around. Your outflow all the way into the Cayman Islands and even into central Cuba right now. All the moisture spreading east. We haven't had a lot of time to talk about it on the live stream today, but we've had some heavier rain for Puerto Rico and portions of the Virgin Islands, the southern side of the Dominican Republic. And we normally have a fair amount of people who tune in from the DR, especially the Santo Domingo, Punta Cana areas. I haven't heard a word from them. If there's anyone who lives in the Dominican Republic, even if you live on the north side, like Puerto Plata, the Samana Peninsula, jump in the chat and please let us know how you're doing. The flooding is extremely important. Yes, all the airports are closed as they should be. We can't leave. We got to prepare to ride out this storm on Jamaica. Yeah, 160 is now the highest, with potentially gusts to 190. It's an outrageous scenario to discuss, but that is the forecast. And again, my friends, overnight, this storm went from a minimal hurricane to a Cat 4. It went under explosive development. This is a very, very devastating storm, and it's agonizing, right? It's just creeping south of the island. There's always hope, right, that this does something that we're not anticipating and doesn't have a direct landfall on the island. But nothing that I've seen has that as a scenario. So we have to continue to prepare for a direct impact from this storm. Hey, Ray Eagle Wings, how you doing? Hope you're well. Yeah, absolutely. Prayers for Jamaica indeed. Hey, Sadine, how are you? Friend of the channel, appreciate you jumping in and let me know that it's you. Mandeville starting to feel the winds pick up. Yep, so Mandeville right there on the map. You see it, south central part of the island, a little bit inland, but not much. So on this imagery, you're going to see the reds and the blacks. That's indicative of some of the more significant wind and rain beginning to move into your area. I do have a loop of the Jamaican radar as well, and I'll try and get you guys a fresh loop, but the eye of Melissa is clearly visible on that. And again, some of the most impactful wind and rain just offshore, but the deeper in time that we go and the larger the storm gets, the more that will just continue to overspread the island, right? It's a matter of just time at this point in time, exactly when that is going to occur. But we are expecting that to just continue to be the case throughout the rest of this Sunday and into Monday. But good to see you, Sadina, and I hope you're doing well. Hey, Caribbean Weather Active, how are you? Wind is getting nasty in St. Thomas Parish, yeah. southeast side of the island, Morant Bay area, Yawlis area, no doubt about it. If you can take videos off of this channel and use it to your videos. I don't understand the question, Crotchet. It's asked me again, do you want to take our coverage and use it on another channel? Or I'm not really sure. Yeah, 40-mile-an-hour winds in St. Thomas. Okay. Hi, Rhea. Thank you very much. 499 super stickers. Let's get the hearts out in chat for Rhea. Big supporter of the channel. I appreciate you as always. Thank you for supporting us as always, and I hope you're doing well. I'm trying to get this latest radar up. But man, either the internet is... How's the internet on the island right now, by the way? If you guys live on Jamaica, are you guys, how's the internet service at this point in time? There are some indications from some things that I look at that the internet service may already start to be compromised a bit. I'm trying to get the latest radar up and it's not doing real well. Living outside of Falmouth and Trelawney, will I get the worst of the hurricane? It's not out of the question. You know, again, worst of the hurricane. So Falmouth area, by the way, Trelawney, just east of Montego Bay up here. It's not out of the question, but we have to start to manage our expectations on Jamaica, right? Like west to east, how much of a difference is there really going to be? Now, again, a western tracking storm is going to pull more of the east side, the worst side, you know, close. And close to the center, right? The center line track from the hurricane center is not that far away from the Falmouth area. You know, it's 10 miles. So you would still see the inner core winds from the storm. So unfortunately, the Falmouth area with this track is likely to see significant impacts, which a storm which would still be Cat 4 at that point in time.
It is still for Opal. It's
Amanda
not
says internet
yet.
is intermediate and no cellular service from Digicel. Okay. And I know Digicel is probably the largest internet provider on the island, if I'm not mistaken. Sugar Honey Iced Tea, yes, indeed. So just so we're clear, and this is a good point, NOAA reconnaissance aircraft, they have several of them. They have the NOAA aircraft, they have the Navy aircraft. They're going to be flying in and out of the storm nearly consistently. There will be very little downtime where there is not at least one hurricane reconnaissance aircraft investigating the storm and potentially more. Now, sometimes they'll transmit the data that I can see it and we can look at that real time. Sometimes that doesn't happen. It does look like the latest that I'm getting. I basically just get like the latest. It's still the old data from about 2 hours ago. So not worth looking at, but I'll keep monitoring that. That's a little bit more intermittent on my side to pick up that data.
How quick they did shut down everything with light and phone service and everything.
Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth, same situation, right? Where again, unfortunately, the center line track is right over Santa Cruz. Now, again, this track can and will shift. We don't look at just the line. We understand that if I were to, I can't do this in real time, but you guys can just clearly see it. If I were to take the core of this storm and superimpose it over the island, it's going to dwarf the island, right? And because your sustained hurricane force winds extend 30 miles out right now. So if we look at this as it moves inland, if this were the direct centerline track, your main strongest winds would be Maypen to Hayes, right? East, Mandeville for sure, Savlamar, Cambridge, probably getting close to Montego Bay. And again, that's from the southern point. If we go here, from where it is at this 4, sustained hurricane force winds in Montego Bay and Falmouth and Ocho Rios and other areas, and likely to still see hurricane conditions in Kingston. Now, potentially the far eastern side of the island, Portland and St. Thomas parishes, avoids sustained hurricane force winds. But as big as this storm is, I don't even want to give that messaging to you guys. I'm concerned that 90+% of the island will see hurricane force sustained winds at least. It's just that massive of a storm. Now, again, western sides, right, are on the weaker side, but you're not far enough away from Negril, right? You're now only 40 miles from that center line, which means the eye wall is probably right about here, which means now you're 27 miles from the eye, and there's just not a lot of buffer, guys. You know, if we take the scenario that the storm actually makes landfall over Westmoreland Parish instead of St. Elizabeth or Manchester, I could see a scenario where far eastern sides of the island maybe avoid the brunt of it. But we're still looking at, again, a storm coming on shore as more than category 4 with winds of 104. And again, where you see these 5 dots, that's 160 mile an hour winds and sustained or gusts to 195. These are outrageous numbers in the official forecast from the Hurricane Center. 160, gusts to 195. God, I hope that it doesn't come in at that strength. Shouldn't, but it might be closer than what we want it to. Again, is there a chance it just goes west? There is always an opportunity for it to do something we don't expect, right? As great as tropical meteorology has become, it's not an exact science, but what we can look at, right, is how well that the models have performed with this storm, right? Most of the models were very good early this week, and I mean early this week when it was close to the ABC Islands. If you guys are followers of the channel, remember how we talked about this slow, erratic northwest movement where it would be caught in between the areas of the two areas of high pressure, and it wouldn't move much. And if anything, it might creep west, right? And then from there, it was okay. One of the areas of high pressure is going to erode away and allow weakness to develop to the north, and that should allow the quote-unquote escape route from the Caribbean. Unfortunately, that escape route just happens to be right over Jamaica and Cuba and the southeast Bahamas. So unfortunately, this thing has done what the majority of the models outside the GFS has said it was going to do. And again, you have an area of high pressure here with your clockwise winds. You've got an area of high pressure here with your clockwise winds. So the south winds on the west side of this high, the north winds on the east side of this high are counteracting each other in between, which is where Melissa is. So the steering currents have been weak, and that's why it's been drifting. But eventually, you get this little weakness develop here. You get the southwest winds to kick in at the surface and at the mid-levels, and it should shoot the storm north, okay? So I will always grant you the plausibility that it's going to do something that we're not expecting, but I believe that that scenario is a very low chance right now. And that if you live on Jamaica, you have to prepare for major hurricane conditions starting tomorrow night as the storm turns into the island. I wish it was a different scenario, but I don't believe it's going to be. No cell service in parts of Jamaica and Antigua in and out. Okay, thank you. In Antigua? Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, no one's unfortunately being able to leave. The airports are closed. We have to shelter in place. We have to first of all, I hope that anyone on the island heeded local government, local officials over the last several days, the things that I've been talking about on the channel, to have preparations done now, right? We're already getting 40 and 50 mile an hour wind gusts. When these sustained tropical storm conditions move in overnight, it's going to virtually be impossible to do any other last minute preparations. You know, you have to be done with that. You have to hopefully have hardened your property as much as you possibly can, and, you know, get ready to ride out the storm in where you feel is the safest available area, right? Whether that's home or in a shelter, that is your responsibility, right? I pass on the information. What you do with that is your responsibility. Heeding local government and local official messaging as well, right? But this is a very serious, life-threatening situation that I want everyone to understand and be prepared for, and the unfortunate devastation that is likely to come across the island with these kinds of winds and rainfall totals and storm surge that are expected out of Melissa. You know, again, whatever terminology you want to use, life-threatening, devastating, catastrophic, are come along with this storm. That is not hype messaging. That is a likely scenario with this storm, as strong as it is. And again, I've been doing this for a long time. As far as the probability and what impacts this storm could bring to Jamaica is right up there with any other significant storm that I've ever covered, whether that's Cat 5 hurricanes in the southeast United States, EF5 tornadoes when I worked in Oklahoma City. You know, I worked in some of the most dangerous, most prolific weather areas of the world, and this one will be up there because of the likelihood of the devastating impacts and the infrastructure damage it's going to bring. I'm glad to hear you guys are taking it seriously. That's the most important thing, right? Is to get this message out, that everyone understands, right? About what this storm can bring to the area, and to just be as prepared as possible. There is only so much we can do. There is. So we get prepared as much as we possibly can. We hope for the best, we prepare for the worst. So far, cell service in Kingston is okay. In some parts, there are issues. For me and my family, so far, so good. That's good, right? And I hope that ends up being the case. Please advise how far you think Savile Lamar is from the eye. I mean, again, it's just one center line. Savile Lamar is going to be within the eye wall if this takes the track that it does. About 27 miles from the center line. If the eye's 15, 20 miles wide, so you're less than 20 miles from the center. I mean, you're in the core winds from the storm, as large as it is, right? You have to take into account how big the storm is. So unfortunately, not far enough away. You know, 20 plus miles from the center line track, less than 20 miles from the outer eye wall. My pleasure, Just Smile. Chances of it weakening, not appreciable. Again, might go through an eye wall replacement cycle. Let's be clear. The forecast from the Hurricane Center is for it to just get stronger between now and tomorrow morning and reaching Cat 5 status. It's got to go another 12 miles per hour to get there. Remember, the Hurricane Center will only go every 5. So if the storm is 153 mile an hour winds, they will round to 155. If the storm is 152, they'll round to 150. We only go up in increments of 5 from the official forecast from the Hurricane Center, right? So you're going to get 155 as a Cat 4 and then 160 as a Cat 5. But that's the official forecast. 160. Now, again, my system doesn't round. So that's why you'll see a little bit different. You'll see the true number to the specific mile an hour. So you'll see 161 and 196. Now again, this dot, the 4, right? So it has worked its way at this point in time in the Hurricane Center's track to the north side of the island, about ready to exit the island, and it still has 130 mile an hour winds with gusts to 160. So you get the idea of what the Hurricane Center expects it to be, even on the north side of the island. And again, this is throughout the day Tuesday. The time that you see is just the initial set time, and even that is old, right? It's the one thing I don't like about this one product is that the time is not specific to the location. And even the set time is wrong because it's actually the 5 o'clock advisory. But anyway, 1:30 to 1:60. That is correct. And again, just looking at this storm, as far as movement, it's due west. Again, hurricanes do not move in straight lines. They stair step like this because they're wobbling around an asymmetric center. So that's the wobble that you see. But we just like to draw them in nice straight paths because it's easier for us to understand. But they're stair stepping. They're doing this, and then we just draw that nice smooth line over time. But when we look at this,
if you'd like to learn how to land high-ticket clients for your course or coaching program using YouTube ads like the one you're watching right now, a free gift for you. It's called the 60-second script. It is literally a framework, a formula to follow to say and do the right stuff in an ad like this to get the attention of your dream clients and actually convert them into high-ticket clients for your courses or your coaching programs. I've used this formula, this framework, to generate over $10 million in online revenue. I've fine-tuned it, I've tweaked it, and this is exactly what you need. Get it for free. It's my free gift to you. Click the link that's somewhere on or around this video, access this, enjoy it, use it, implement it, and then let me know how you get on with it, and I look forward to hearing from you.
let's get the hearts out for Sir Dead Life Better, who has multiple times on this live stream supported the channel in a lot of different ways. So thank you very much, Dead Life Better, for your support. Very awesome, and I appreciate you so much. But again, these are your spaghetti plots. Now, sure, you got a couple of outliers that take the turn a little bit slower. You can ignore the ones through the Cayman Islands. There's just no way, at least in my opinion, that's going to happen. The Hurricane Center has fully dismissed them, and all the other more precise models so far have dismissed them as well. Your really tight cluster is within about 10 miles on either side of the center line. And the Hurricane Center is following along with that as well, right? There will be some shifts in this track, guys. That's going to happen. You know, there's two things that could happen here that could still put a wrench in exactly where it could landfall. One is, how quickly does it start turning north? Okay? Maybe it is farther west. Maybe it's quicker. And then the second thing is, it's not a due north line from here. It bends back north and east. So maybe that turn northeast is quicker. Maybe instead of coming up like this, it goes more like that. That is still, I think, a plausible scenario. The interesting thing is, you could have a slower turn to the north, so it goes farther west, but then a quicker turn back north and east, and it still ends up in the same spot, right? We'll see how it plays out. But there's high agreement, at least in the models, that a landfall central, maybe western sides of Jamaica is the highest likely scenario sometime on Tuesday. Bull Bay, the wind is very heavy here, light rain, Bull Bay. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the information you guys want to pass along. Remember, you know, you guys are helping to tell the story, right? This is why I do this. You know, this is not just a one-way street. I want to hear from you guys. You know, let me know what's going on in your area in the comments. I appreciate all the supporters of the channel. Good night, Brent. Wish you the best. Yep, there are areas like Savlamar that are easily inundated with water, and that is a problem, right? Some of that is kind of a receding coastline in some areas, and the water can quickly move in. Hey, Samuel, how you doing? For the northern Bahamas, on Wednesday, I would expect some potential tropical storm force gusts, but only indirect impacts. At this point in time, I'm not concerned about any really significant areas of impact in the northern Bahamas, but some gusty winds and some squalls on Wednesday are possible. I'll be monitoring for you guys as well. It does get eerily quiet sometimes before these storms move in. That can be something else as well, where everything goes a little bit still for a minute and it ramps right back up. Okay, I appreciate the up. Thank you for the 199 super. Thanks. Now, again, I always try and pronounce names right. I don't know if it's like Shay, VII, and we're doing like the 7 in Roman numerals, so it's like Shay 7, or if it's like Shay V. However it is, and I apologize if I got it wrong, thank you for your support. That's the most important thing. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get the hearts out in chat. Hi, Amy. How are you? Let's get the hearts out for Amy as well. Member of the channel. Again, if you're a member of the channel, you will see your custom badge and emoji next to your name. So Amy is a newer member, so she's got that new badge next to her name. We have some who have been a member of the channel for more than a year. You'll see that. Their names pop up in different colors. She got the $5 super sticker. So Amy, I appreciate your support. Thank you very much. And by the way, if I didn't read this, Dead Alive Better said, oh, because it's brand new. It popped up on my screen earlier. Sir Dead Alive Better, thank you very much for that. Again, multiple super thanks on this one live stream. And he says something that means a lot to me. It really does. He says, I found this channel during Hurricane Beryl last year. Rusty kept me updated when I was worried about my family. I will always do what I can to show my appreciation. And that means a lot because, you know, it means that there was something, you know, impactful that we brought here on the channel and that you found and you were appreciative of, and you're willing to support the channel from here out. And that's the most important thing that I'm trying to do, right? You know, in real time, pass along this information and do it in a very calm way, doing it in a way where we get the most important information to as many people as we possibly can. And so to hear that means a lot because that's the mission of this channel. So thank you very much, Sir Dead Life Better. That really does, you know, keeps me going, as you say. When you hear things like that from you guys, you know, gives me a little bit more energy to keep going. All right. So we're coming up on 7 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, which sadly will go away soon, and we'll be back to standard time, and it'll be dark before you know it. So 6 o'clock local time in Jamaica. Again, we're still monitoring Melissa. Now, again, this live stream, wanted to come on for you guys. Obviously, we had a storm that got significantly stronger overnight and is now a major category 4 hurricane. Wanted to make sure I imparted the information as far as what is happening with the storm right now and what is going to be happening with the storm as far as track, timing, intensity to get you guys as prepared as possible. The majority of the hurricane force conditions are not going to be felt on the island until starting tomorrow. Now, you guys know I got you covered here, right? We're going to be doing a lot of live streaming over the next several days. Now, I don't have an exact time frame yet, but extended live streams will be coming over the next couple of days and likely on Wednesday as well. So, especially for me, it is a marathon, not a sprint. But again, you know, we had some video for you guys today from Justin and Alex, and there are others that we're in communication with to try and bring you guys additional live streams and videos on the island as conditions continue to get worse. So keep an eye out for that. And obviously, we've got other areas of coverage coming. But the biggest thing right now, again, is that if you do live on Jamaica, got to get prepared for what unfortunately is going to be an extremely impactful storm with conditions that will just continue to go downhill throughout the remainder of tonight, and then especially throughout Monday and Tuesday as well. Hi, Shinji Lamarta. Boy, I hope that's right. It's an awesome name regardless. Thank you so much for your super thanks as well. Let's get the hearts out in chat for Shinji. I appreciate it. Thank you again for your support. Have we gotten to 100,000 subscribers yet? That's when we threatened to do the merch store that you guys were asking for. I'm joking because I know we're not there. So we have a poll that's up, just asking if you're in the path of the storm. You want to check that out? Up bad. Chat's on fire today. Yes, it is. Absolutely, Eddie. All right. See what we want to move on to next here. Again, I think some of this information is just important to keep reiterating as folks come in and out of the chat, right? The fact of when I really expect the weather to just go downhill. And that typically coincides with the arrival of your sustained tropical storm force winds, right? So we expect that to pick up east side of the island to begin with, central and then western sides. But basically by daybreak tomorrow, we've got a lot of the southeast coast, including Kingston area, Port Moore, Spanish Town, Halfway Tree, Old Harbor, probably even towards Mandeville and Maypen and Hayes, that will be in sustained tropical storm conditions. I would include Yawlis, all of St. Thomas Parish, Morant Point, in those areas. That should just spread west pretty quickly, where by midday tomorrow, the entire island, even up towards Montego Bay, is in sustained tropical storm conditions. Then it's just a matter of time based on the track of the time from the Hurricane Center that, unfortunately, hurricane force conditions, right, winds sustained of over 74 miles an hour begin to move into the island late Monday and especially overnight throughout Tuesday. The tropical storm force winds will obviously precede the hurricane force winds, and those will just spread to the north and to the east as we go through the early part of the week. Now, again, we're still getting pummeled in Haiti with the significant life-threatening flooding that continues to occur on the island, feet of rain there, sustained tropical storm conditions, potentially some hurricane gusts, which is why they have the hurricane watch. You got the hurricane warning for southeast sides of Cuba, including the Guantanamo area and Santiago de Cuba. Again, their worst weather coming in later on Tuesday, and then the tropical storm and then hurricane force winds overspreading the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos on Wednesday. Those areas are likely to begin to fall under hurricane watches and warnings fairly quickly as well. So this is the overall impacts. No signs of weakening. No signs of weakening. Let's do it. Let's get to 100,000. A lot of folks like you, 123 Scheffler. I live somewhere else. I've got family on Jamaica. I know friends who live on Jamaica. I've got interest in Jamaica. I visit Jamaica. I love Jamaica. Everyone is very interested in this storm, and for very good reasons. Because again, this is about as aggressive, if you will, to use a word, that I've had to write up a summary of what we're likely to see, knowing that all of this, unfortunately, is likely to become reality. But if you live on the island, these are the things that you need to prepare for, right? The catastrophic and the life-threatening flash flooding, the storm surge that is likely to be 9 to 13 feet on the southern side of the island, which could be even higher than that. And remember, that doesn't take into account the wave action and the swell action as well. The extensive infrastructure damage. So, obviously, buildings are going to be significantly impacted by this storm. The potential to have other larger buildings that could continue to be unusable for a long stretch of time. And that does depend, of course, on what the building is made out of, right? Is it cement, concrete of some sort, metal, wood? That will matter as to the fail with the winds coming in on the storm. So we do expect, unfortunately, extensive infrastructure damage. Long duration power and communication outages. It could be not just days, but it could be weeks, right? Depending on just how much damage tree damage, things that need to be cleared, power lines that need to be put back up, right? Internet, everything could be down for a long, long duration. Unfortunately, with the amount of rain that we're talking about across the island, especially in the eastern parishes, which are likely to be measured in feet of rain, right? Maybe 500 to 100 to 1,000 millimeters. Landslides and mudslides are nearly guaranteed and could be very extensive, right? This could lead to roads being washed away, and in some areas that could isolate communities, right? Where if there's only one main road in and out, or even if there's multiple roads in and out, but you're in an area with fast moving water that can wash out the roads, we could see that isolation. Again, being prepared for a longer duration without utilities, so having fresh water and non-perishable foods is a really, really important thing to have in a storm like this. We've talked about your documentation, you know, any vital records that are important to you, putting those in Ziploc bags and taping them up. So at least there's a waterproof barrier between those very important documents is always a good idea. I mentioned medications. You don't want to be on a important medication that you take on a daily basis and not have enough of a subscription to get you through this storm, right? So having a good supply of that medication, especially if it's a very important one to your health, is important. Remember to check in on the pets as well. Make sure that they are secure. And the last message I'll put out is for those who have children, like myself. This is obviously a very scary situation, right? We want to make sure that we are the level-headed and calm members of the family. We don't want to sugarcoat what is going to happen, but we want to talk to them in a very calm and reassuring way and let them know that you've done everything you can to keep them as safe as possible. You're watching this channel. You know, Rusty's keeping me updated as to what's happening. He's letting us know the timing and, you know, what is likely to happen. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's likely to be very significant, but we're gonna weather this storm together, and we're gonna come out of this as best as we possibly can. Just having that reassuring, calming voice can go a long way, because they're gonna go through this storm with you, and they're gonna remember this storm for a long time as well. And you know, those thoughts will be with them, you know, well throughout their life. And so, you know, having someone to give them that reassuring voice is always an important thing. I do it with my kids. You know, again, with Hurricane Milton last year, that was a very strong storm that even where we live in Florida, we had some minor home damage. It was nothing significant, right? But, you know, I made sure that I let my kids know what I was expecting with that storm, so that when the 80+ mile an hour winds came here and the home was rattling, they understood that I expected that, right? And so try and bring that along. And of course, as we get closer to time, right? It's not happening today. This is tomorrow into Tuesday. You know, I'll continue to remind you of that messaging and exactly what we would expect in these areas. But, you know, we need to be that calming voice for the younger kids, no doubt about it. Thank you, New York. I appreciate you. Let's get the hearts out. Just subscribed as well. Thank you. Again, I don't know if it's Shay 7 like Roman numerals. We're going Shay V. However it is, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Fiona. Fiona, you don't have to. I appreciate you tuning in though, and being a big part of this channel, being a moderator. The models, unfortunately, have a very difficult time with how quickly storms can get strong in the environment that's present over the last several years. We saw it with Beryl, especially saw it with Helene and Milton last year. And this year, the Hurricane Center took a much more aggressive approach. Even though the models weren't showing this extensive of rapid development, if you followed my videos the last couple of days, you know, the Hurricane Center was always on top of this. I will give them credit for that, because they were always going on the peak end, or the, you know, the bell curve of intensity. They were on the far right, the most intense all the way through. Okay. But yes, agreeably that the models really do struggle with rapid intensification. They can handle a storm that more moderately intensifies as the majority of hurricanes and storms have in our recorded history. But with sea surface temperatures being outrageously hot, with the wind shear being very, not very present anymore, these storms have just found ways to rapidly intensify outside of the model guidance, which is really important when it comes to hurricane reconnaissance aircraft, because it's the aircraft that are going in and out of this storm in real time that are giving us the latest winds, that are giving us the latest pressures and showing how strong that storm is getting. Independence City, Portmore. Well, I'll tell you, in the Portmore area, right, need to take this storm as seriously as you possibly can. Obviously, it's dependent on how high up you are, right, in elevation, as to the potential for flooding. Flooding of low-lying areas is very expected. The problem is you get up into some of those higher areas, and now you're more exposed to the wind. So unfortunately, I hate to say this, but please take every precaution you can just to be in what you think is the most secured area. And you're going to be sheltering in place, right? You're not moving. You found that spot. That's where you're going to hunker down for the storm. It's the best advice I can give you without knowing exactly where you are and exactly the surroundings with you. But I would say this: if you live very close to the water, especially on the southern side of the island, you might want to be contemplating getting inland, right? Always heed local government and local official advice, but with the inundation of water that is likely to come with the storm, we know that that's going to push water inland from near the coast. And you guys saw the video a couple of times from St. Thomas earlier today about already the turned up wave action, right? The significance. It is, isn't it? Yeah, we'll get the 8 o'clock update. That'll just be an intermediate from the Hurricane Center. I don't expect there to be much change. I really don't. It's going due west. We're looking at it in real time. Let's pause this real quick. Maybe just the littlest, do you guys see this little tongue here of green? Maybe the littlest of drier air trying to get into the storm just a little bit, but I mean, that could just be cutting off the deeper convection here, and you've just got this monster. I'm not gonna, there's nothing that is gonna slow the storm up anytime soon. The only thing that's gonna mitigate the intensity is if it goes under what's called an eye wall replacement cycle, which is where an outer eye forms, collapses into the inner eye. So this goes away. You get more of a kind of a bit of an overcast at the eye, which reduces the winds, raises the pressure, but it's all temporary. It's basically like something just blowing its top, right? It can't stay that strong forever. So it blows its top, it shrinks again, reorganizes, and becomes right back. And with some of the storms, actually gets even stronger after an eye wall replacement cycle. Don't expect that with this particular storm. But it is plausible that we go under an eye wall replacement cycle before landfall. The Hurricane Center has mentioned that. And so that's why they talk about fluctuations in intensity, right? There's fluctuations as to what the peak wind could be. But as I've mentioned many, many times in this live stream, in some ways, it doesn't actually matter that much. Whether this moves on shore as a 160 mile an hour hurricane, 140 mile an hour hurricane, or even slightly less, because the damage is likely to do in all of those winds are going to be about the same in most areas, right? If a structure will fail in 160 mile an hour winds, it's likely to fail in 140 mile an hour winds and likely to fail in 120 mile an hour winds. You get below 100, where there could be some differences in the overall infrastructure damage, but anywhere above that, it appreciably ends up being about the same. There could be additional tree damage, and the rainfall comes into that as well. The biggest variable, right, that could impact more areas outside of the significant wind is the amount of rain. Again, if it's 10 to 15, that would be less, but still significant. But if we get to 25, 30, 35 inches of rain, the amount of flooding is likely to be historic in along portions of the island. So Dead or Life Better, man, I appreciate you. I don't know what else to say. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. We, one more time, need to get the hearts out in chat for Sir Dead or Life Better for another $9.99 super thanks. I appreciate it, my friend. And as you guys know, we take your support and we put it to full use. And it does matter. Look, we're a growing channel. We need to continue to grow. We're doing some things that we hope you find unique. We hope we're doing some things, that you appreciate my presentation, appreciate my philosophy on these storms, and hopefully my expertise, and that we'll get all through all of this together. So hopefully that's the reason why you're tuning in. On the technical side of things, we have some very exciting things coming your way in 2026. We hope, right? The channel needs to continue to grow for us to be able to do that, but hopefully that's the case. And again, in good weather and bad, right? I don't just jump on when there's horrible weather. We do daily updates across the Caribbean and the Bahamas to just tell the weather story in this area. No strong winds yet in Hayes and Clarendon. Yep. Again, I don't want to fully discount a miss west, right? And look, I'm with you guys on trying to find what's the best case scenario that could happen out of this storm. I completely, if there's a way out, great. I just remind you that even if the storm, and let's get into it, because there's been plenty of people who have been in the chat about this west movement, right? So let me just show you the scenario here. Let's say the storm creeps due west, and that bow, that turn, is farther west, still forecast to come back north and east. And let's say that this ultimately ends up being the track. Okay, right? The problem is, if this is where the eye is that all of the east side of the storm with your onshore winds and the most prominent part of the storm is over the island, right? If you guys go back to the videos I made earlier in the week, I was talking about how the best case scenario for Jamaica was a miss east to keep the weaker west side of the storm over the island. A miss west isn't nearly good, right? And how far west are we talking with a storm that's this large? The miss west would have to be significant, well beyond even what the far west models are showing right now. So that's the problem with kind of giving your hopes up for a west turn. I wish it was a different scenario. I mean, I think you guys know me well enough to know that if we could find some reason to feel better about things, I'm all for it. But at this point in time, pretty much all the data shows that this thing is likely to head for a direct impact. And that's what we're going to go with right now. Could things change by tomorrow morning? Sure, always a possibility. But this is what we need to prepare for today. I'm going to do one thing off air real quick. I'll leave that on. I am going to I'm going to behind the scenes just real quick look at the latest European model. And I'll look at the latest Google DeepMind as well. If there's something to pass along, I'll let you know. Let's see here. I mean, it is slightly west, but it is still over the island, and it is early Tuesday. Again, I mean, let's say it's even here. That's still the majority of the island getting the east side, and now the inner core winds are over the western side of the island. It just has to go much farther west than that if there's a scenario where like, hey, it's actually better. Unfortunately, this scenario, I think, puts even more hurricane force winds over the island. There's not much of a change. It's just slightly west of that line. Look at the Google DeepMind. Same situation with the Google DeepMind. I might be able to show this. It looks like now there might be 3 members that are just offshore. So 40, I mean, look, let's be clear. There is a slight shift west. Absolutely, right? Slight shift west in the models since this morning. We always expect there to be some changes to the track. It's just a line on a map. It's not set in stone. But is it an appreciable change to the impacts that we would see?
People often say to me, why would a business owner sell their company they've been running for the last 10, 20 years for a pound or for $1? And look, there's a whole bunch of reasons. Probate because somebody's died or somebody got ill, business is in financial trouble. All that pound or that dollar is a consideration. It's a payment that you have to make in order to show that the contract to buy the company is legally binding. Every contract is only enforceable if there was a consideration, and a consideration is a payment which has to be in cash or in kind, and $1 is just a nominal sum that you can use in order to create that legally binding agreement.
All of that is appreciated because you're not just informing me, you're informing everyone in the chat. And that's the biggest thing, spreading the information, right? And letting us know what you guys are seeing in real time. It's one reason why I do this channel, for that interaction between us. When will the high pressure ridge lift in the Western Caribbean? It begins to erode tomorrow, which is why it produces a weakness and allows the storm to turn north. There's also weakness building to the north of the storm, which is kind of giving it its quote unquote escape route. Let's see here. Hey, One Gloria Nation, welcome to being a supporter. Thank you very much for doing so, and hope you're well, and appreciate you tuning in and being part of the channel. So thank you. All right, so that's the oldest one. Okay, let's see here. You're the newer one, all right, indeed. All right. So hopefully that'll load up in just a second, and we can take a look at that together. Can this storm impact Nassau? More than likely not. What we would likely see in Nassau on Wednesday is just some squally weather. Again, indirect impacts, yes. Some squalls, maybe some gusty winds from time to time, yes. But any direct impacts from that storm, it is not expected. It is expected to stay into the southeast Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. Again, western side of the storm is weaker. With the wind fields aren't as significant on the west side as far as distance from the storm. So I'm not expecting the sustained tropical storm conditions to get to New Providence or Eleuthera or Andros or the Abacos or Grand Bahama. Central Bahamas, certainly a possibility. Right now, again, this storm is forecast to be a Category 2 in the southeast Bahamas. It is not going to be a joke there. It's going to be accelerating, so the rainfall totals are likely to be a lot lower. But as far as wind impacts for southeast Cuba, which is under a hurricane warning, southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, those could still be very extensive as well. Bring that line again here. You know, I mean, again, if you average out the wobble like we are over the last 6 hours, that thing is still going just due west. It is all going to be about when this wants to turn, right? All going to be about it. It's, again, there, yeah, sure, there's a difference that it's farther west. I just keep trying to make sure that I'm reiterating this point that a farther shift west, if it's only slightly, is not necessarily a better scenario. So I hope I've gotten that message out at least. If it goes far enough west, okay, maybe. But all right. Newest one hasn't popped up yet, but I'm working on it. Again, should be there right now, but it's not. So Haiti and the Dominican Republic is unfortunately continued to be inundated by the rain, right? And we can take a look at the impacts one more time as well. We've had feet of rain, especially in the southern peninsula of Haiti. And Port-au-Prince has had 35, 40 mile an hour winds for the last several days. This is a flood situation for Hispaniola. That's the biggest impact. Feet of rain, southern DR, south and western sides of Haiti. Multiple reports of just catastrophic flooding, right? There's not, a lot of cell service data, especially in Haiti right now, not a lot of communications, but the sparse information that I've seen is that this scenario is not good. And again, it just is going to continue to be an area that gets hit on the east side of the storm with waves of heavier rain, some gusty winds. Again, they could get 30 to 40 inches of rain in the western sides of Haiti from this storm. And they've already had 2 feet in a couple of spots. And the Hurricane Center from their 5 o'clock advisory was talking about an additional 8 to 16 inches of rain. So you get 20 to 25 already, and you get an extra 8 to 16, and now you're in that 30 to 40 inch rainfall total, which is outrageous. Melissa, the Acklands should be beginning preparations for potential hurricane conditions in your area on Wednesday. It is forecast to be a Category 2 over your area on Wednesday, with conditions going downhill later on Tuesday. So whatever preparations that you feel like you need to make with the potential for a Category 2 hurricane to move over your island very quickly, you're going to want to get those done tomorrow, right? And again, infrastructure issues in the Southeast Bahamas certainly can be a scenario as well, where, again, loss of power, loss of water, not being able to pump the gas from the gas station, loss of internet service for days is a possibility in the Southeast Bahamas, Acklands, Mayaguana, Inagua, and all the Turks and Caicos as well. So you do have tomorrow for sure to prepare. So non-perishables, bottled water, things you want to get for a few days to be without utilities, batteries, right? Make sure everything's charged up and ready to go. You do have a little bit of time in the Southeast Bahamas. The southeast side of Cuba has tomorrow and only tomorrow before the storm begins to move in. It did not just complete an eye wall replacement cycle. It might begin to be going under an eye wall replacement cycle, which is where it forms an outer eye that basically consolidates the inner eye, where you get that non-classic look. It kind of becomes more that gray overcast. It basically weakens the storm in a small way for a short period of time. So an eye wall replacement cycle can reduce the maximum winds, right? But it's only for a short duration until the eye begins to reform. It doesn't kill the storm in any way. And as I mentioned before, sometimes the storm can come back even stronger for an eye wall replacement cycle. Not expecting that with Melissa, and maybe this knocks it down from a Cat 5 to a Cat 4, but not going to have a lot of overall impacts, even if it reduces the max winds by 15 or 20 miles an hour. Let me check and see if I got this new one in here or not. I guess not. All right. I'm gonna have to talk to some people I know to try and figure this out. Yeah, that's not the right one. What you guys are seeing right now is the old one. Or maybe you guys aren't seeing it. I don't know. Maybe you guys are seeing the map. Oh, okay. Might have progress. We'll see. All right. You guys are still seeing the map. That's fine. Okay. 932 from Recon, not out of the question. Now, they might see 932 and they might set it at a different level. I don't want to sit here and say it's going to be 932. But a lowering of pressure with this storm is still likely in the short term. Remember, it is forecast to become a Category 5. We're not there yet, but we're on that path. Again, just in real time, looking at the center, tracking down that center line, it's all going to be about when this wants to curve north. That is going to be the biggest variable and question mark still for the island. Remember, tracks are just lines on a map. They're not gospel, right? Things can and will change. But a large swing outside of this cone of uncertainty, which on the very far western side is brushing the island, is a very low-end scenario because we're running out of time, right? We're running out of time for this to do something different. There generally cannot be a sudden change in direction. They don't have minds of their own. It's following the very weak steering currents that are into play. The forecast is that for there to be a weakness to develop north of it and allowing this storm to follow that weakness in with our two areas of high pressure on either side. So there's a reason why the storm has been moving like it's been moving, which, by the way, was very nicely forecasted by the Hurricane Center. There's a reason why it's going slowly west right now, and there's a reason why all of the models pick up on that turn to the north. Again, when we look at our spaghetti plots, right, from all of the high-resolution models, a few are on the western periphery of this. Again, we can discount the ones that just shoot it west. There's always going to be one or two, just like the GFS. The GFS is out to lunch, doesn't have a good handle of the storm. Haven't shown it to you today because there's no reason to introduce it. But your vast majority cluster are still here. Now, can there be more of a shift west between now and tomorrow night? Sure, absolutely, right? But a shift far enough away to keep the island in the clear seems extremely unlikely at this point in time. I know we want to, again, think for the best, and we will, but we have to prepare for what the Hurricane Center and the models are showing, and that is a direct landfall of the storm as a major hurricane. When the hurricane's over Acklands, how far will the hurricane extend? Well, hard to say at this point in time. I expect it to still be a large storm. I expect it to be moving quickly. And based on this centerline track, you would obviously have hurricane force winds over the Acklands right now, right? Because you have your center line right over that area. Did I miss a fan funding? I don't want to do that. All right, Gloria Nation, again, a supporter of the channel. Appreciate you, Gloria, or One Gloria Nation. Thank you very much. So we've got the poll, and almost, 850 of you have answered, and more than half are in the line of this storm. So there you go. When does it start making the turn north toward Jamaica? Starting tomorrow morning. Throughout the day, Monday, right? Slowly progressing here by early on Monday, and then turning north and beginning to accelerate. So this would be like Tuesday afternoon, right here. I'm going to see. I think I might have been able to. Yes, okay. Hallelujah. The new Google DeepMind. All right. Again, the Google DeepMind model. So this is the brand new run, right? Shows it as a Cat 4. Google DeepMind model has done very well during hurricane season. It's an ensemble product like the European and the GFS, meaning that there are 50 different iterations of the model that run, and you get these spaghetti plots, right? Now, earlier run today, all 50 members had a direct landfall over Jamaica, right? You can see now there are a couple, 2 or 3, that are just off of the West Coast, but just off the West Coast. And again,
Karen,
not far enough away to where with an extremely large, powerful hurricane like Melissa is, that it's pulling the core of the storm far enough away to reduce the impacts. Potentially, far eastern parishes will be in a slightly better condition with wind for St. Thomas and Portland parishes. But remember, this is the east side of the storm where all the rain is going to be. And the majority of the models on the Google DeepMind have it as a Cat 5. I see a little bit more orange here, which is Cat 4-ish, right? But for the most part, we're coming in with a 4 or a 5. But there's the recurve. And again, this is the brand new one. Now, one thing I'll say is that there's not too many members that are near Kingston or east, but we're still close enough in a lot of these where significant wind impacts and the storm surge on the east side of the storm is still very prominent through the majority of the island. Southeast Cuba and into southeast Bahamas. Maybe, if it does stay a little bit farther west, slightly farther away from Turks and Caicos, but again, you're on the east side of the storm. So potential hurricane impacts for Turks and Caicos as well. So again, that's the look at the latest Google DeepMind model, the spaghetti plots to that, the ensemble members. So for my friends in the Bahamas, like Cat Island and places like that, the potential impacts are still a little bit up in the air, right? We have to see how this storm handles the intensity and exactly where it's going to go. I'm not ignoring, the fact of what people asking me in the Bahamas. We're just a little too far away to be talking about exact impacts right now. Now, I'll say for someone who's asking about Cat Island, you're on the west side of the storm, the weaker side of the storm, and hopefully you wouldn't see direct hurricane impacts, maybe some tropical storm impacts, but that's still a little bit in the wash, a little bit down the road. Hopefully tomorrow, and especially early on Tuesday, I'll have a better feel for it based on what the intensity of the storm is at that point in time and exactly where it's going. But I would say for the central Bahamas, there is certainly the possibility for sustained tropical storm conditions, and hopefully we're avoiding the hurricane conditions in the central Bahamas. All right, so we are coming up on the 8 o'clock advisory. So what do we get a 7 o'clock advisory for here? Why did we get a 7 update? What was that? Trying to figure out what the little update was. Did they give a track? Sorry, just trying to figure out what it was. At 1:45, west at 5 and 9:41. All right. All right, anyway, so we got the intermediate at 8 o'clock. Again, let me be clear. It is not going to be a track shift from the Hurricane Center. Now, we might see on my system, there be a little bit of a change in this because, again, the Navy, which is where I'm pulling this data from, in the intermediate advisories, they do give a track shift change. Typically, all that is a heads up, if you will, as to what the Hurricane Center is going to do in the next 3 hours, right? In coordination, in conjunction with everything. So we kind of get the information a little bit first. It may be slightly different, but if we see a little bit of a shove west, that is probable. I mean, it's close. The Hurricane Center did go a few miles west, but we're talking miles, nothing more than that at this point in time. But we'll see how it plays out. I think by tomorrow, mid-afternoon, we'll have a little bit better idea of exactly when this turn north occurred. And if there is really going to be an east turn to it before the island. Remember your center line track here, you know, if we were to go due north, would brush the island. So the Hurricane Center is banking on with this track of theirs that there is a bit of an east turn before the island. All those are still a little bit up in the air. But again, direct impacts to Jamaica, highly, highly, highly probable. The forecast strength over Jamaica right now is a Category 4. Teetering, Cat 5, weakening from a 5 to a 4, but not much. The yellows and the greens, dry air. It's just less lower cloud tops on this infrared satellite imagery, right? So you see this a little bit. Some of the thunderstorm activity has faded away, right? You know, some of this convection east could be getting cut off from the main circulation. That happens a lot with these storms. You know, if you were showing signs of, oh, okay, this storm is, you know, somehow getting weaker, these lighter yellows and greens would have to begin to penetrate the inner core. And right now, if we're looking at this thing being like a shield, right, it is as concentric as it can possibly be. No drier air is anywhere near the center. And the lightning strikes are indicative of a storm that probably is still just getting stronger. You do see a little bit of a shrinking of the eye at the end, possibly the beginnings of our eye wall replacement cycle, but fluctuations in diameter of eyes with a storm this large and this massive, we see it all the time. Okay. Nassau in the house, St. Lucia in the house, Cat Island is in the house. Appreciate all my friends. All right, real quick break. I'll be back literally in just a second. Then we'll get into the 8 o'clock advisory and we'll go from there. So see you guys in just a second.
Hey, Rusty.
Oops,
and guys
wrong
over
button.
at Media Mundo.
There we go. There.
Globalist, good evening. Will you permit me to get some rest now? Because to say, I have an appointment early in the morning, about 9 o'clock, and I need to get some sleep to get the up and sort our appointment out. But as usual, as I said, there will be some floating links out there. We will always have a floating link out there, so as and when needed, we can jump on urgently. You may have seen we've done some changes to the interface of some of the channel names. We are still Global TV, one and only. The main channel, which was producer Wayne, Global TV, that one is now Global TV Group. Then Global TV Studios is now Universal Media TV. And GTV Group is now Universal TV Group. But even though we changed the interface names, we are still Global TV. Thank you very much for being here. We will continue to bring you update of the hurricane, and you can also keep up with the recent updates on with Rusty on what's his channel name again? Meta Mundo. It's spelled METEO MUNDO. So you can hop over to Rusty to keep up with what's going on over there, because I really need to rest my brain now. It has been quite tired. So thank you all very much for being here. And please do join us back tomorrow when we continue the coverage. And all of us pray for Jamaica, for our country, our people, and our family. And we also hope on this side that they all followed the necessary precaution to keep everyone safe. Thank you. Good night from Global TV.
Oh, thy peace, the God of my salvation. Because the mouth of the sinful and wicked is open. Rastafari. Come with I. Rastaman throw one stone and it break a bad feeling to all wicked men. Not a people there. Make a man throw one stone and it bring a bad feeling.
Okay, friends, we're back. We're approaching 8 o'clock, which again will be another intermediate advisory for the Hurricane Center. Get you the details on that. If you're just tuning in, I want to go over again the likely impacts across the island, so you guys are fully prepared for what we could potentially see. Again, this is based off of the track right now from the Hurricane Center and the Hurricane Center's discussion and the model information that I have seen as well. Again, right now, Melissa is likely to make landfall early on Tuesday, central western sides of Jamaica as either a Category 4 or, sadly, even a potentially Category 5 hurricane, right? Winds of 130 to 160 miles an hour are likely to be felt near the center of circulation and just off towards the east. So some of these significant winds could spread into places like Maypen and Hayes and Old Harbor and Spanish Town and even Kingston and Portmore and Halfway Tree, right? If the storm is...
I'm going to wait on just a few minutes. It's coming up to 8 o'clock in the United States, and we will be getting a new update at 8 o'clock US time. So I'm just going to hang on until the new update in the next about 10 minutes or so.
Slightly farther west, maybe it's the lower end of this, but you're still talking about sustained major hurricane force winds getting into the eastern side of the island, right? As the storm lifts north, obviously there's a little bit of land interaction, but there's not a lot to cause a lot of significant reduction in winds. So the northeast side of the island, central eastern sides of St. Aaron and St. Mary and Portland parishes likely to still get 120 to 140 mile an hour winds, right? You know, hopefully the winds of this significant don't spread as far east as St. Thomas Parish. St. Andrew is going to be close, and Kingston, and the farther west that you go, St. Catherine and Clarendon and Manchester, they're more likely, right? But the devastation from any of these kinds of winds will be extensive, more than likely historic. It's a tough pill to swallow. Hopefully we're just as prepared as we possibly can be, right? The rainfall totals will potentially be historic again. They'll be very widespread and outrageously high in portions of the eastern side of the island. 15 to 30 inches of rain is the forecast, but locally up to 40 inches of rain in some areas, right? 375 to 1,000 millimeters with this storm. The amount of flooding and the significance of the flooding, again, may have never been seen in some of these areas. We'll see how the rain wants to develop, but considering the slow movement of the storm, being on the northeast side of the storm, especially the eastern side of the island for a longer duration, leads to the catastrophic rainfall totals that are expected. Then the storm surge is a big problem on the southern coastline. So the Kingston area, Old Harbor area, but anywhere along the east coast, east of where the landfall occurs, is likely to get 9 to 13 foot storm surge above ground level. First of all, that could be conservative, especially if it comes in as a low-end Cat 5. Right? But there is a wall of water that is likely to come in with Melissa that will be catastrophic. Again, double digit in feet, 3, 4+ meters in height moving in. That's the wall of water, but there will be waves and swells on top of that that could exacerbate the situation, right? That could push even more water inland. So the inundation of water along the southern coast in some inland areas, just depending on exactly how this wants to go up the coastline. But the orientation, right, of the Port Royal area and by the airport and the bays to the west is going to collect this water because the winds are going to be out of kind of the east-southeast and just pushing into these areas. All right. Then we look at the western side of the island. Now, again, wherever the eye moves through, right, the core winds will come along. If you're just west of that, right, if there is a part of the island that misses the eye wall west, the winds will be a little bit weaker, but still extremely significant. And obviously be updating this for tomorrow, keeping a really close eye on things, right? But the northwest side of the island, St. James and Hanover parishes, probably portions of Trelawney, 90 to 120 mile an hour winds sustained, okay? Southern sides of the island, Manchester and St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland parishes, probably 120 to 140, all right? And again, the storm surge will be a little bit lower along the western edge or west of the eye because you're negating the surface winds, which will be out of the north in these areas with the storm motion, which is coming out of the south. So you don't have as much storm surge. You typically don't have as much wind, but in this scenario, right, look how significant that still is. No one on Jamaica is likely to avoid a scenario where there are impacts to your area. In some
Welcome to the Arcadia Colony. Play it day one with Game Pass.
Let me take you through the 4 pillars of our sustainability journey. We are committed to optimizing and electrifying the processes in our factories. We're redesigning our products and solutions to prioritize sustainability, circularity, and ensuring we leave a lighter footprint. We're moving away from fossil fuels and embracing renewable energy sources. We are paving the way towards a cleaner, greener future. Our goal is to transition towards carbon-neutral factories.
Water really collects quickly down to the valley areas. That kind of rainfall can lead to prominent landslides and mudslides, significant flooding, isolation of communities via washouts of roads. All of that is likely in the central and the western side of the island, even with just 10 to 20 inches of rain, but certainly a little bit lower than what the eastern side is likely to see. Just checking in with our friends in the Hurricane Center, but we don't have the 8 o'clock update yet. We can look at it together, by the way. I'll bring that on camera. "40 inches of rain, 1,000 millimeters. I hope we don't get that high, but again, that is direct messaging from the Hurricane Center. Also, for Haiti and the Dominican Republic, right? They've already had 15 to 20 inches of rain in a couple of spots. The Hurricane Center is talking about adding an additional 8 to 16. So you get to the 30 to potentially 40 inches of rain down on the peninsula and the western sides of Haiti, Lacaille, Port-au-Prince areas, southern Dominican Republic as well. A lot of storm surge and a lot of rain inundation in this area too. More rain than actual storm surge, but elevated tidal conditions, just the onshore winds lapping through and some extremely significant swells as well. Again, sustained tropical storm force conditions on the western side of the island, some gusts that are higher, which is why they're under a tropical storm warning and a hurricane watch. And those swells that I mentioned that could be 10 to 20 feet or 3 to 6 meters. So really high-end stuff here, guys. All right, still waiting on the 8 o'clock advisory. Again, sometimes they issue it early, sometimes we're, a little bit later. By the way, the Jamaica radar is the website's basically offline. I was trying to pull up that latest for you, but it does not appear that that's going to happen. I think they have been flooded with requests. But even earlier, we could clearly see the eye, right, from the radar. And this expansive heavier rain with the tropical storm force winds in yellow and orange will just expand north as the storm gets bigger. Again, not getting closer to the island right now. It's paralleling the island due west, but we'll rotate in some of the more significant squalls late tonight and overnight into the southeast sides of the island. So St. Thomas, St. Andrew, Kingston, St. Catherine parishes, you're going to get the worst weather tonight. And then that's just going to spread north and west across the island the rest of Monday. Should start turning north throughout the day tomorrow, right? Could be a little bit earlier, into the late morning hours. If it wants to take a little bit farther track west, right, which we've noted has been hinted on the models a little bit, the curve to the north would be slower. So it would be deeper into Monday. The problem with that is that any more farther west before the turn north keeps the storm over the open waters for longer. That's the other big issue, right? If it doesn't just shoot west and somehow split the gap between the Cayman Islands and Jamaica, and we just avoid the worst case scenario because it stays offshore, which again, the models are not showing. Let me be clear about that. This slower track up, because it's farther west, allows the storm to potentially even get stronger, sitting over the environmental conditions that are so conducive for development, right? So that's another scenario as to why. Again, I want people to be clear of what a west shift could really mean, and that the fact that it may not be a good scenario for a lot of folks. All right, so we have the 8 o'clock advisory. Okay, 1:45, but the pressure has dropped by 8 millibars to 933.
This is the latest update, man.
That number was where they're going to set it. Still moving west at 5. Oh, gosh. Adios mio. It's not a good scenario, guys. When you have a storm, yeah, the maximum winds haven't dropped, but the central pressure has by 8 millibars in 3 hours. 933. That's already exceeding the H-WRF, which was at 938. Now, again, could it weaken and whatever, but we're already, remember the half say was at 913 pressure wise. I hope we don't get anywhere near there, but I don't like the trend. All right, so pressure's 933 millibars. Again, lower pressure, stronger storm, deeper area of low pressure underneath all of that mess. Winds and pressure typically go hand in hand, but they don't have to go in lockstep with each other. Sometimes the pressure can drop and the maximum winds don't increase, and vice versa. But in a general sense, they do dance the same in coordination with each other. Let's see here. All right, so that's the 8 o'clock advisory. The only thing that changed was the pressure to drop another 8 millibars to 933. And that is straight from the reconnaissance aircraft. That's why they're so vital to have in this storm in real time, right? Remember, there's no track update with the intermediate advisory. We might see a shift here because the Navy does update theirs in the intermediate advisories. And typically that's just a preview of what the Hurricane Center will do for the next one. There could be subtle difference, but it's typically not large, if at all. They're still talking for 15 to 30 inches of rain, maximum of 40. I'll bring this on for you guys. So again, latest update from the Hurricane Center. Position is 115 miles south-southwest of Kingston. Again, sustained winds 145, west at 5, pressure now 933. No changes in the watches and warnings. So the hurricane warning, beating in red in for Jamaica, the hurricane warning for the southeast sides of Cuba. Hurricane watch, which is going to be in your blue. Sorry, well, it's really yellow, but the tropical storm warning is more prominent because it's a warning, so that's the blue that you see. But they are under a hurricane watch and a tropical storm warning. And then you have a part of the Cuban Peninsula is also under at this point in time. If you're viewing us in the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, there are no watches and warnings for you. Based on this track, it's just a matter of time. Likely by tomorrow morning, we'll start to see some kinds of watches being issued and then those turning into warnings as we get closer to the storm impacting your area, if this ends up being the track. But appreciably, because the Hurricane Center will likely feel it is, we'll start to see those being issued tomorrow morning in areas. Again, if you do live in the southeast Bahamas, take this storm very seriously. Same thing for Turks and Caicos and the southeast side of Cuba as well. Otherwise, guys, there's not much change here in this advisory. The one thing I did want to note is the rain. Again, right here. Melissa is expected to bring rainfall of 15 to 30 inches to portions of Jamaica, and additional rainfall of 8 to 16 inches for southern Hispaniola through Wednesday, with local storm maximum of 40 inches possible, right? So some unbelievable rain that could be falling from this storm. Eastern sides of Jamaica and portions of the peninsula of Hispaniola. My pleasure, guys. Okay. Worse than Beryl? It's a good question. And what I would say for the vast majority of the island, based on this, yes, right? Remember Beryl was a major hurricane, but it was beginning to fluctuate just south of the island, only touched the island with its inner core winds near Treasure Beach. If you guys remember that Black River, Treasure Beach area there, portions of St. Elizabeth Parish, that was the area that got the brunt of the inner core winds. Everyone else just kind of got the outer part, but it was still significant. The rainfall, the flooding was still significant. But yes, because this is likely to be a stronger storm and to pull across the island from south to north, the more direct impacts with this storm compared to Beryl are going to be felt much farther and wider and more intensely. But unfortunately, that's the thing. I even mentioned it earlier that comparing this storm to Beryl, it's really apples and oranges, right? Unfortunately, Beryl's impacts are likely to be paltry compared to what Melissa could bring and is likely to bring. Okay. All right, my friends. So let's talk about coverage. You guys know that I'm going to be on for you live a good part of Monday into Tuesday, covering this storm for you, how it tracks, wherever exactly goes, the impacts, and all of that. So this is going to be extended coverage for the next several days, likely to do some coverage in the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos on Wednesday as well, right? Again, this live stream was to prepare you for the impacts expected. Beginning tomorrow, we'll really be in storm coverage mode, really watching the weather go downhill across Jamaica and other areas and tracking those impacts for you guys in real time. Again, you saw some of the video that we had across the island. Our hope is to continue to provide you and to bring you more video and live coverage on the island for tomorrow as well. Hopefully, the technology will allow us to continue to do that. We want to try to provide you the most first-person accounts of the storm as possible. Again, if you would like to be potentially a part of that collaboration process, the easiest way to get a hold of me is
globalists, thank you all. We've heard the new update and nothing much has really changed. All we have to do is brace ourselves and prepare ourselves. Ladybug and to everyone on the island, make sure you all stay safe and get in touch with us as soon as possible. Thank you all very much and good night. I'll be back on tomorrow as soon as I get back home from my appointment, which should be before my regular show time. So we will be on to tell you what is happening. Thank you very much. Good night. Jamaica, keep safe. Thank you.
If you don't like missing out on the latest shows but still enjoy classic hits, then Global TV Group 358 is your perfect match. Global TV Group 358 isn't just another channel, it's your ultimate TV experience. From breaking news to binge-worthy dramas and timeless classics, we've got it all. Our unique blend of original content and global favorites means there's something for everyone. And guess what? With GTVG's seamless streaming, you can watch anywhere, anytime. Plus, our interactive features let you be part of the action. So, whether you're a seasoned binge watcher or a casual viewer, Global TV Group 358 is here to keep you entertained day and night. Don't just watch TV, experience it with Global TV Group 358. Subscribe now and never miss a moment.